that is it for us today. Okay, I don't know what. Whatever it is, it's not right on the teleprompter. I don't know what that is. I've never seen that. That's tomorrow. And that is it for us today. Okay, I don't know what. Whatever it is, it's not right on the teleprompter. I don't know what that is. I've never seen that.
No, there it is. We are going to do Sting. Yeah.
Okay, but now I can't read it. There's no words on it.
Okay. Ready? Sure.
There's no words there. To play us out. What does that mean? To play us out.
Sting is going to do this video.
What is
for credit?
I don't know what that means. To play us out. What does that mean? To end the show?
Yeah.
All right, go.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is that.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a. I can't do it. We'll do it live.
No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks. That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks again for watching. We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new album. Take it away.
And we are back. This is the Limitless channel, live on the Limitless channel today, joined by my co-host, Awake Souls, Jason Laufenberg, and the first time ever, a concave earther that was a flat earther who's now gone his own beyond flat earth, but not in the same way that we have. So, how's it going, Jason? You there?
Hello, everyone. I'm pumped. This is going to be fun. Different models, and I think we've got a group of people here that we can do this civilly, so it should be fantastic. Thanks for joining us, Joshua.
Thanks for having me, Jason, Ronnie. I appreciate it.
That's great. I'm looking forward to seeing your model on things. So, basically we'll just get right into it. I got to do there's an error here. So what was it that made you learn to question your reality, Josh?
Well, that's I guess we go way back to my early childhood, just realizing that it didn't make sense that there was both poverty and billionaires. That's something that even as a little child, bothered me, and why they were spending all this money in outer space and stuff when there's all these, poor people, poverty throughout the world. So even right away, I grew up in a Baptist household. I was born into.
I'm sorry, everyone.
No problem. I was born into, Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday night prayer meeting, that whole thing. And so I was very familiar with the concept that there were evil forces in this world, deceiving everybody on a massive scale. It was about a variety of topics. So when it came to cosmology, it was late 2015. And it was just like the day before I had, I had done some soul searching of my own. And I remember like, you know, being real honest with myself in a way that I hadn't been for a long time. And I prayed. And it was the next day I saw, one of Mark Sargent's clues. The next day I was taking a nap, and I woke up from the nap, and YouTube had auto playing one of the clues, and it was talking about stationary Earth and living in an enclosure. And immediately that gripped me because of all the scriptures talking about how the Earth is fixed, firm, immovable, stuff like that. So immediately, half of Tiger Dan's video popped in my head. Before I had, the first time, contemplating a stationary enclosed Earth, bang, already all those verses, Psalms, all that stuff popped in. I was like, yeah, there's something to this. Immediately I knew we lived on a stationary Earth without even researching it. I'm like, yeah, I always knew the Earth was cold. I always knew it, as a child. So that's where that all began. That's how my journey started.
That's great. Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
And then where did the flat Earth thing break down for you? What happened there?
Well, what's true for many people is in my situation, I started, of course, you see one flat Earth video, you watch another one. So you start watching the 200 proofs debate stuff, and you watch photo or painting stuff, and then you start getting into some of these documentaries that say Dave Moore and ODD and Scrawny Tabrani put out, and you're seeing all kinds of information, and you're soaking it in, and you're seeing all kinds of footage of these close lights and boats that really aren't over the curve, and all this, Photoshop fakery with our CGI globes that they show us, and the ISS and the moon landings and all this other stuff. So you start getting involved with that. I realized, well, if I'm going to prove or disprove any of these claims, I got to get a P900 of my own. So I did that. I'm from New Hampshire, so the beach was relatively close. I was able to go to the beach, get some footage, did that. Saw strong evidence that the downwards curve is obviously not as we're taught. The proof for axial rotation doesn't seem to be there. So with that being said, I quickly immersed myself with the videos, the footage, the sciences, and I got active. I started meeting people, and I went to Boston, and I started, doing the activism stuff and getting out there, and I did the business cards, and I passed that stuff around. So it's really, the more you know, the more powerful you are, and the more powerful you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more useful of a tool you are. And so that's been a journey that's been, 4 years for me now. So that's where I'm at now.
All right. Well, I've got an idea. Like I had mentioned when we were sort of like pre-hanging out here, I was thinking about sort of documenting the 4 different models that we have going on in the world right now. I mean, would you agree that generally speaking, there's just 4 models to speak of?
Excuse me. Well, yes and no, depending on how you categorize them. Yeah. I mean, I know of at least 11 different flat Earth models, but I mean, that's within the flat plane model, I guess you could call it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's not, roughly there's about 4, 5, 6, something like that. Yeah. So
you've got the heliocentric, the globe, where we're on the outside of a globe, right? Mm-hmm. You've got the AE mappa model, the one with the dome, the flying pancake or flying snow globe, that one. And you've got ours, and then you have the concave that you want to present today, right?
Sure. Yeah, there's other models too. There's the hollow Earth, which asserts that there's people living on the inside of the globe like this, and people living on the outside of the globe. But it's still, in theory, we're still living on the outside of it. There's other people living on the inside. So that's a whole other thing. And then you have there are some people that are still convex earthers, but they're stationary convex earthers, where they believe they live on the outside of a ball with gravity, but they don't rotate and they don't orbit the sun, the geocentric folks. And so
yeah, that's the original. That's the original that the Jesuits came up with, was geocentric, right?
right. And that way you could still have your celestial sphere around the convex Earth, but it still inverts everything inside out, in my opinion.
Well, no, that would be the concave, right? But that's the reason why I want to keep this clean and clear. So let me show you what I'm just starting to work on here. And what I'll do is I'll just fill it in the background. But so let's just keep it organized, the 4 models of Earth that we're talking about. And it's perfect that you wanted to talk about maps, because that's the first thing that I wanted to talk about was maps. And so as far as the maps go for these 4 models, the one for the globe has to be stuck on a spherical skin, right? They say that they can't take it off of the globe and put it down on a flat plane without having distortion in it. So it really literally has to be shown as a 3D model. But if you do take a map of that, we've seen it with the Mercators and all that kind of stuff, what happens, where the distortions are when you start splaying things out like that. So the next one, we've got the map. The popular one is the Gleasons, right? That's the one that most people are thinking about when they think about the UN map model, the New World Order. So they've got a circular map. Now we've got a map with 4 corners on it. And I was just going to ask you, what's your map for concave Earth?
Well, the concave Earth map would be very similar to the convex Earth map, just on the inside, not the outside. And as far as the model goes, I don't think that simply inverting the convex to concave, I think there's more to it than that. I don't know, because I've never been to Antarctica. I'll say that right off the bat. I assert that it's possible that Antarctica could still be a continent on the inside of the concave Earth, at the South Pole. But I do think it would have a larger circumference than we're told. And there may be a hole in it, making it technically an ice ring. While not an ice ring around a flat Earth, it could still have... That would explain some of the Clark and Ross, like long distances and stuff like that. We don't know exactly... We know they're hiding more. Obviously, they're hiding Antarctica for more than one reason.
Well, the reason
they're hiding lots of things down there, but the size of Antarctica could be another thing that they're hiding.
Well, the reason why I didn't fill in the 4th one is I wanted to hear from you what we should label the model that you're promoting. Like what should we call it?
Are you looking for like a 4th image to slap in here? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
I sent one in the chat. I could send another image of.
Okay, I don't see any chat right now. I'm just.
No, I sent it to Jason. Well, to everybody.
Okay.
I'm looking for another one. That was just a clean one where they have the concave model sliced in half and they show you the maps. That's nice. There's one where. Fantastic.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, we could just use the convex Earth map. We could just say we're on the inside of the globe, not the outside. So it's upwards curvature, not downwards curvature. But for all intents and purposes, I assert that the mainstream, even the mainstream globe maps are essentially accurate. It's just they're not flying down; they're flying up the curve, not down the curve. But the flight paths would all be the same. They're just the planes are nosing up, not down.
Here it is.
The maps. I think the maps work. The spherical maps of the Earth are working maps.
So here's where it gets interesting. That globe, right? We've seen it put down on maps where it's distorted. The Mercator, where it's stretched to infinity at the north and the south.
Yeah, there's many globe Earth maps, so I understand what you're saying. So the true one, I can't say I know, but globe maps are relatively accurate.
Here's where it gets interesting. So the globe has 2 polar points, and when you splay it out, right, stereographically, and you try to flatten it out and put it into a 2-dimensional map, what works is a stereographic overlay. So like things in 3D, Blender, 3D modeling programs, you can stereographically take a flat image and project it to a sphere. Stereographically. If you try doing just a regular like Mercator map, then it's got distortions all over the place. So what Ronnie and I did is we searched around to find what the most accurate stereographic map of Earth is. And what we found is the C.S. Pierce 1894 at first, and then the Hotine Oblique Mercator. And the Hotine's just the more, it's, you know, the modernized graphics, you know, higher resolution, more accurate, stuff like that. So if you flatten out the map of a globe, what you get is the map that we have right here. Or actually, if you start with this map right here and wrap it onto a globe, you'll get something that we're familiar with the globe. So I didn't want to be too presumptive, but I wanted to offer you, since our map is the most accurate, the 3D mapped stereographic map from globe to map and back and forth, that this literally is your map as well, if you believe that you're inside of a sphere.
I would have to agree. The way I see it is all these different. This map right here, the Christian simulation map, is basically an unwrapping of the globe map, and also the Freemasonic flying snow globe, the circular. That's just a different way to unwrap the globe, or vice versa. You could say that.
But it distorts the South Pole to infinity and squashes the North Pole to nothingness. But if I could take the screen share for 1 second.
Yeah.
Just to show them really quick, before you move on. So this is the software here, and it wraps it to it does away with declination. It wraps it on its supposed axis, just all by itself. And so you're just saying the concave Earth these would be your tropics, and it would be inside here, right?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, pretty
It's
much.
not perfect, the map that we use. But yeah, there's that, and then just so you can see, we also have the stars. This is the way that the stars work when we use 3D modeling. See how it's like this shape here, the stereographic projection? Mm-hmm. Then when you wrap it, it almost goes back into perfect ribbons like that. So this is the sky. This is the way all the celestial heavens work. So you have your two polar points. So you have one, and then you have a half point and half point. When you wrap it to a sphere, you get your galactic center right here. And then everything on the tropics works this, right? So I just wanted to show just how neat that is. This map sits on top of the map that we are presenting. So
right, and this looks something similar to what Lori Ferrari was presenting way back when, I think.
Nope. She was presenting a Mercator that was skewed to infinity, and then she went to a diamond map.
Right. Well, I think she had presented something like this, where you have basically like 3 point. I don't know if it was exactly this. I'm saying something similar.
A diamond, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, this rectangle is like one way to unwrap a globe, or the globe is one way to wrap this. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
If you map the flat square surface
equate to each other
to this parameters, you can create a sphere, live on the inside or the outside of it off of this style of a map.
One thing I noticed about this rectangle here is it looks like 3 eyes, two eyes with a third eye. That's kind of funny.
It's weird, right?
I think our screens are froze. I seem to be holding a pose for too long of a time.
Go ahead and take the screen share back, please.
Just a second. So, all right. Then as far as, is it safe here to say that if you're going to say that the continents that we're familiar with, the shape of North America, South America, Central America, all seems to match with reality. So it's essentially the same layout as we see on the outside of a globe, but is on the inside of a sphere.
Sure. Yeah, what I'm basically saying is if you take every major city and call it a dot, and you connect all the dots. So let's say you take the top 100 largest cities in the world, and you connect each and every one city to every other 99 cities. What's going to happen is you're going to get so many lines with all these 100 dots that it's going to create a web. And this web is either going to be laid out in a flat plane fashion or it's going to be in a spherical fashion. Now, based on like navigation and the way flight routes are going, it really appears that this web of connected cities is a spherical web. And so for that reason, we've got that's why there's all these different ways to lay out a flat map, is because in my humble opinion, I think they're all attempts at trying to figure out how this would work on a flat plane, because there's no downwards curvature. And the way it works is there's upwards curvature and the globe maps are fine. That's what I...
Topography does. So what we experience, teach, and, you know, basically identify with in reality is that we live on what could be perceived as islands, and they're surrounded by waters. So the waters around the islands are going to be where the edges of the maps are. So you can, you know, put it in any shape you want, the islands, it doesn't matter. But what we teach is specifically scriptural, that there are four corners, right? And this is exactly the way that we do it.
Yeah, because otherwise, where would the four corners of Earth be in concave Earth?
The four corners of the Earth, as explained in the LSC version of the concave Earth, the four corners of the Earth would be the four magnetic equilibrium points found on the equator. Now, there's two stable and two unstable equilibrium points, and they're opposite each other. And so that's how you would explain the four corners of the Earth. However, we don't yet necessarily know the exact. We don't know if, even if the Earth, regardless of the shape of the Earth, concave or convex or flat or whatever, we don't know if it's uniform, because we haven't done all these plumb bob experiments all over the Earth. So it could be.
Well, I've used a plumb bob in quite a few places on the Earth.
I'm sorry.
I'm a framer.
Yeah, we're both framers.
Yeah, we grew up with plumb bobs. That was part of the mandatory tools in the pouch. Had to come with a plumb bob, right?
Yeah, transits, theodolites, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. Cool. So, yeah, go ahead.
So you understood with the AE Mappa model that one of the huge debunks of the AE Mappa model is that it's got two polar rotations. And the AE Mappa model only has one polar rotation. That only goes around Polaris. It doesn't go around a southern celestial rotation. So the globe has observations for both a northern celestial rotation and a southern. So two, it's very well documented. So that would be a check mark for the globe model, and a big no-no for the AE Mappa model. But of course, what we were looking for was a stereographic map. And so stereo is a reference to that left-right, two poles. So the stereographic has two poles on it. Now it's just splayed out in this orientation, split half and half in Antarctica. But it is a two-pole model. How many poles does concave Earth have?
Well, four. There would be two poles to the Earth and two poles to the sky. So you'd have you'd have the north and south geographic pole, and then the rotating celestial sphere inside the Earth, i.e. heaven, would have its own axis of rotation. You know, in the concave Earth, the Earth is stationary, and it's the sky that rotates. This ball of stars, celestial sphere, or some people, the occult term is the black sun. The black sun is a term that's hidden the celestial sphere for a long time, or Saturn, if you will. So you've got all these different terms, but basically you've got a rotating ball of stars. So you have that has one north and south pole, and then the Earth has its other north and south pole. And so that's that deviation, the Chandler wobble, if you will, when the celestial sphere is rotating, that's how we have declination and stuff like that. It's not because the Earth is rotating and orbiting inside of an outer space.
Okay. Now, do you consider yourself a Christian, like a biblical Christian?
While I don't like that term, Christian, absolutely, yes.
Okay. So when you hear like the occultists having all these like black cubes and all that kind of stuff, Is that like a clue to you that this was probably of satanic origin or biblical?
Yes and no. My take on that is I know that they use the books, the Bibles, and the religions as mind control. That's no secret at this point. The churches don't teach what the book says, and as far as the books go, we know they've added, subtracted, mistranslated on purpose, all this other stuff. So, that being said, they're gonna hide truth where they know people won't look, and so where they know religious people won't look is in occult places. And occult really only means hidden, eclipsed, apocryphal, and occult mean the same thing, hidden. So you know, some people have a real problem with the term Black Sun because it's tied to the occult and Luciferianism, but wise people will understand that that's where the elite are going to hide real information is in these dark, dirty places. And so sometimes real truthers got to get their hands dirty and look in those places so that they can make these connections. And there are people out there who understand this, and so they're reaching out to the occult community and they're trying to get people to understand, hey, Black Sun is the celestial sphere. So there's kind of like a little stupid little war going on with the terms, and it's really silly, but it's just two different terms for the same thing.
All right, is there anything else? Do you agree where we're at on maps right now?
Well, I don't exactly know where you're at per se, but I would say that obviously we agree that the A.E. Gleason is not a map. It's just a time calculator. It's just a flattening out version of the globe.
Yeah, top down projection, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
and I think that these two square maps over here are essentially the same thing. They're just unwrappings of a globe. And so I think they're all accurate in their own right. Even the AE, like I had a Gleason map, and it will show the areas of daylight on that AE map. Now those
Not the areas of daylight, just the position of the sun.
Yeah, those are accurate because the AE was never meant to be a map. It was just supposed to be a time calculator.
Right.
Right. So the areas of daylight on the AE map, once you translate that map back into a globe, it's still going to show you the correct areas of daylight lighting up half the globe inside.
But in a super sketchy way because.
But it's not an accurate map. It's not a representation of what we live on.
It also doesn't work throughout the year all the time because the length of day changes throughout the year. So what calculation would you have on a Gleason's to be able to adjust for a longer day at one time of the year as opposed to the shorter day of the year? I mean, then wasn't it just done on the equinox when everything is the same length of day? Yeah, because you couldn't represent on a AE splayed out like that the width, since the sun's up longer. If you're looking at Australia or something like that, it would have to vary in width. Right, that map's not capable of doing it, so it's a really rough representation.
In reality, the sun is orbiting and oscillating, and on a flat plane scenario, you can't have the sun doing that. The only thing you can do is make it go in bigger circles. So it doesn't. The map really only works as like you. Really, all you can do with the AE and Gleason is put an hour hand and a minute hand, which is all David Weiss did, and showed that on an incorrect, stretched out, flat version of the Earth, you know, you can tell when daylight's going to be.
You can create any shape you want, divide it into 24 sections, right? You could make
exactly
a hammer Earth or
divide it in 24 sections. Have your 24-hour time zones on a flat circle. That's all it's for, and that's what it says that right on the Gleason. It's a time calculator. Period.
Right. So I mean, this is the interesting thing that with these four models, if we accept the shapes of the continents that are put on the globe, this right here, what we've been sharing, is the flat map of it. It's undeniable. You can take this, throw it into Blender yourself, and you can't do that.
It'll wrap right back into the globe. And I think even the AE Azimuthal Gleason, they also will accurately wrap back into a globe. I just think that the flat circle and the flat squares are two different ways to unwrap the globe.
But the big difference between what our model and your model would be the curvature, right? Because yours would be the inside of the sphere and ours is a flat plane.
Correct. I quickly realized that there was no actual measurements showing that water was. There's tons of optical evidence that proves the downwards curve is wrong. There is no downwards curve. But what I find is that optically I see water curving up, and in any experiment that I can look to find that shows where like 3 measurement points have been taken along the surface of water, or even the plumb bob experiment, all the actual measurements are showing concavity.
All right. Well, so how about I'm going to put on here curvature next. That seems to be where we're going.
Okay.
And
Sure.
why don't you take over presenting and show us what you would like us to consider?
For the curvature,
Okay.
yeah. Upwards.
All right. So I'll screen share real quick once I'm able to. Someone else is currently screen sharing, so I cannot.
I stopped it.
Okay, let me try again.
Yeah,
Okay,
it should
here we go.
work. It should work.
Yeah, it's working now. Okay. All right. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'll just go to some images that show what I'm talking about. Let me see. Maybe I can hide this real quick for the time being. All right, there we go. I'll throw this down here.
You play hockey? You a hockey player?
I was, yeah.
Awesome.
I haven't played organized since high school because of my knees, but yeah, I'm gonna. Now that I'm in Michigan, now that I'm outside of Georgia, I could probably actually find a darn hockey rink.
Yeah, right. For sure. Wednesday nights or whatever, usually, right? We play too. I play.
Oh, excellent, cool.
Yeah, man.
All right, so here's one example. This is the plumb bob experiment, and this is an example of a topographical measurement that is a hands-on, tangible. And so this has nothing to do with the curvature of dirt or water. What this is finding the point of origin of the gravitational forces, if you will. We'll just use that word gravity for whatever. The forces, the reason things go down. You know, we'll just we'll just use that word gravity and hope people don't get triggered. But obviously gravity doesn't work because gravity is a singular pulling force holding everything to the outside of a ball, which cannot explain why smoke and steam go up. The reason why I let go an object and it doesn't start moving sideways in the air is because there are no sideways forces in the earth. There's an up force and a down force. Therefore, buoyancy and equilibrium can exist. So the object's properties, its mass, weight, density, etc., will decide who wins that tug of war game, the up force or the down force. So that being said, this experiment, you just hang plumb lines and they're diverging, which would indicate that.
Could you cite? Is this the Cyrus Teed experiment done like 150 years ago? Has there been any modern day experiments?
That's another great point.
Because the AE map modelers, they'll bring up all kinds of CGI, but nobody will. Even mainstream science. There's some of their experiments.
Yeah, what I suggest you do, there's a great source. I'm sure you've heard of Charles Flat Earth Math. He did a video on the TAM, and there's actually like a 30-page.
We know him. He agreed with our map, actually.
A really long paper on this.
It's interesting.
There's many schools that have done, their own articles and written their own opinions about the Tamarack Mines experiment.
But because again, I just want to repeat to you again, I'm a builder, and I could build you a building that was the distance that you had outlined there. And I can guarantee you if I hang my plumb bob from one side to the other, because I literally sometimes have to build things, within a 16th of an inch, let's say,
Right.
And, they don't diverge. It's plumb and square at a right angle to the
Have you built a building that was actually that long, 1,400 feet?
Yeah, for sure. I've built larger ones too. I don't know the numbers off by hand, but I've built some monster buildings here in Toronto. And the walls were absolutely plumb, flat, and straight for the entire distance. And what I did was I had an argument with someone, and I told him if you think the Earth is a ball, because after your vanishing point, people's feet are obscured from the bottom up, or a supposed boat going over the curve disappears from the bottom up. I told him in the building that was this larger than 1450, I put my cell phone on the ground and I told him to walk to the other end of the building. By the time he got there, it was cut off up to his knees, right. On a flat, stationary building. So I can't really say that this is a
light's bending. But if you had hung a plumb line, now mind you, they hung a plumb line also 1,450 feet and we're only talking about 8 inches difference between the surface lateral
that's
measurement
crazy, right?
and down here, and still that translates to roughly a 4,000 mile radius, which would make sense on inside a spherical concave Earth. The center you'd have the same 3959 radius. So I'm not sure that you were able to hang a plumb line this far. Had you hung a plumb line this far, you might have seen some inches of, if you only hung a plumb line 100 or 200 feet, well, you might have only seen like an inch or a half inch, and you might not have, really, I don't know.
So again, it's the same answer that I get.
I won't claim I know. But,
No, it's the similar answer to the globe Earth, that it's scale and that we're way too small. Everything needs to be much larger. I'm just bringing that up.
Well, I mean, it's true. Based on the size of the Earth, you would have to have large measurements just to even detect this, like 1450 and 1450 8 inches. I mean, we're only like even the flat Earth. It's only 8 inches per mile squared. That's really not a lot. I mean,
That doesn't really work though.
That's not a lot at all.
So the upwards curvature would be massive in the concave Earth. Jason, you're modeling.
The same, yeah.
What?
The curvature actually 8 inches per squared per mile only works for not very many. 100 miles? Then it just fails.
Did this on Facebook and really just obliterated some guys over this whole 8 inches per mile squared. It's one of those big popular, supposedly flat Earth groups, but it's all heliocentrists in there, and they were trying to act like 8 inches per mile squared doesn't really cut it. Well, yeah, take the 3959 and square that. The maximum, that's the radius of Earth. You square that. And what he's showing here, go ahead. Square that, 3959. Yeah, and then you multiply it by 8 inches, and then what you now have is 1,729 miles of curvature. So 8 inches per mile squared is severely short of coming back to 3959, which is what the formula demands. Right, and so that formula isn't a constant. And you're right. Once you reach 3959, you're gonna realize you run into problems with that formula. And so that formula is really only accurate within the first 300 miles. Yeah, so which is beyond the range of all the cameras that we have anyhow. But it comes in way short. Right.
So the same.
Do you use the same 8 inches per, or what curvature do you use for, because I'm filling out the curvature chart right now, and for the globe I put 8 inches per mile squared. What should I put for concave Earth?
8 inches per mile squared up instead of down. It would be the same. It's a direct inversion.
But it would come really short of it, right?
Well, I mean, 8 inches per mile squared, for the first.
But it only comes to 1,729 miles of curvature. So percentage-wise, how far short is that of 3959? Is that?
It's about half. I mean,
over half, right? Or
about that, yeah.
So, got to double it. That's crazy.
Right.
This is a minor problem. We're just bringing it up. We're just sharing with you what we see, and you share with us.
All you're bringing up is a discrepancy in the formula. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which is fine. It's because the math does not work. You can't do it mathematically, and that's another interesting thing.
Right.
It's an error.
If we get to if we're talking about the simulation, whether or not in the simulation we're on a globe or inside a globe or on a flat plane, it's really easy to prove that it's a flat plane because you can't mathematically come to these calculations. You have to literally, within computer software, geometrically do things like CAD style, then measure the line that you're created, these vectors, and you got to measure all that. So every single calculation becomes absurd if you put it onto a curved plane.
All right, so here's the thing. Here's what I talk about is the false dichotomy, where you have a convex Earth and a flat plane. So people are what people will do is they'll measure, they'll see from one shore to the other, and they'll say, I'm able to see the shore. There's no hump of water there's no hump of water that's not convex. Therefore, the Earth must be flat. And that is a huge mistake, because if you're not taking actual measurements, you can easily, like I did, believe the Earth is flat when it's not. You can easily believe water is flat when it's not.
But that's an orthographic perspective, and actually the huge problem that is going to fail with the concave and the sphere Earth is left to right curvature. So everybody wants to live on a pool cue, and inside of a pool cue. Yes, if you're saying that the water is ramping up 8 inches squared per mile, then it has to happen 360 degrees all around you, and no side-to-side curvature has ever been detected.
You're right. You're only going to see side-to-side horizontal curvature on the convex Earth, because on the convex Earth, what's beyond the horizon is empty airspace. On the inside of it, that's another thing people aren't thinking of. They're thinking, oh, well, if you debunk one curve, you debunk the no. On the inside of a concave Earth, beyond what you can see, there's more Earth. So you're never going to see a smiley face concave. It's going to be flat, 360 degrees all around you, just like this.
It's going to be flat. That's correct.
Whether your altitude is here, you can follow my arrow here. You're still going to have a flat line horizon all the way around you. And if you ascend vertically, so then you can move from here to this one, then you can ascend vertically. You're still going to have this flat line. You can ascend even more, and you're still going to have this flat line. You can keep going up, and you're still going to have that flat line, just like, just give me 2 seconds. Let me find the right diagram to show you. Just like, well, this one answers your other question about the map issue. But this image that I'm going to show you, perfect. Here we go. So here you go. You can inscribe a circle on the inside of a sphere. Inscribing a circle doesn't mean flat. But here you can see that no matter what your altitude is, you're still going to have 360 degrees.
There's a huge problem, I got to tell you. If you were to project for me the path of the equinox here and show me how everything rises due east and sets due west inside of this sphere, because as you can see, the way that you have a straight path of the sun like that, it doesn't work.
Okay, so in the concave Earth model, you've got the sun like this moving at 2 different speeds. Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll just. Do you mind if I just play this video for a couple minutes? Or, I mean, he explains it really well. Basically, you've got the sun going around like this and heating up the top of the ball in the summer, and then 6 months later, the sun will be orbiting around, down at the bottom of the sphere.
Well, I can check it out.
Yeah. So I mean, this is how the seasons would work as well. But this is why the heliocentrists claim to debunk the flat circles. They're saying the sun moves across the sky 180 degrees. Well, that makes sense in this spherical Earth model. Because the things that don't make sense on the rotating convex ball, but that the heliocentrists are correct about, everything comes together in this model, because you don't have a rotating Earth, but you still have a spherical Earth. You still have sun lighting up half a globe, but it doesn't work on the outside of a globe because we have that hump of water in the way, and
no hump. Actually, the truth is, when you do the geometry of it, that spherical Earth would demand a drop away from in all directions. There wouldn't be a hump in front of you. That would be like you were standing on a stegosaurus.
No. I understand from the observer's line of sight. I'm talking about from.
And just like concave, right? We would see this.
Observer to the sun, there would be a hump of water in the way. I'm saying the Earth would get in the way of the sun and the observer on the convex Earth.
And so,
in certain situations, and in this model here, the Earth is never in between the observer and the sun.
And his model demands no 24-hour sun either, right?
The sun, there's always a direct line of sight between the observer and the sun. The Earth never gets in the way like the convex Earth would.
You guys can see that, right? This model. No 24-hour sun is possible on the concave map.
That's not true at all.
Yeah, it's impossible because at one point it would be 180 degrees from the landmass on the other side of the ball.
Actually, right now it's showing you 24 hours of daylight in the north and 24 hours of darkness in the south right now.
Well, I'm saying up all day sun.
Yeah, right there in the North Pole, it's constant sun right now, and the South Pole has constant darkness as we speak. Look at it.
Mm-hmm. It's the globe that really needs the up all day, and really.
And so at 6 months later, it's going to be the Antarctica down at the bottom that gets the 24 sun, and it'll be the North Pole that gets the 24 hours of darkness. And so
one of the things that we figured out about the globe is, even though they say they have the sun up for 52 days constantly where it never sets, we found that there's no evidence for that. In fact, one of the fake flat earthers, the AE map and modelers, went to Alaska and was going to supposedly document it. And in his live stream, he showed it set. And then after that, in post-production, he had a CGI'd sun still remaining up the 24 hours. So, the globe doesn't have the 24-hour sun that it demands. And so I'm just curious, does the concave model have a 24-hour sun or not?
Well, what you're saying is that there is no 24-hour sun that exists, but I disagree.
Do you have evidence for it? Because we've searched everything and we've had this going, really bucking people for, I don't know, 2-3 years or something on this topic. And there's no real footage of it other than some CGI. And
yeah, and it's funny too, the video that you shared with the clouds behind the sun that you shared on your channel, which is a really interesting topic. We're not through curvature. I guess we can wait till we get back to that. I shared videos on the bending of the light in the water with the substance, with the sugar water back in 2016. I know how light can be projected. We're gonna get to that.
Okay, so
are we done with curvature? Or do we want to?
Well, it's flat.
I wasn't done with curvature, but we can move on to that later. There's I'll show you more. Right now, I'll answer the current question about the sun. I know what you mean. There's been videos that look like fraudulent, like they were CGI or whatever. But there's all right. Hold on.
Yeah, this is nonsense, right? You know this. I've seen this stuff. To
be welded together forever. Unfortunately, it's what makes
the
for
one that you're talking about, where it starts off as snow and then it ends with the mountain has no snow. Like that could be the CGI one.
That's
what I'm saying, because I was fooled by that too. I'm like, oh, there is no 24 hours sun. I'm like, wait a minute. Well, what if I saw this? What if I'm believing the CGI one? How do I know which one is real and which one? So when I actually saw this one, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, hold on. Let me get this out of this.
Yeah, that's not our map.
No, I know it isn't yours, and I know that,
Yeah, we're
this isn't, first of all, this isn't my video. I'm just using this video because it shows evidence of a circular sun.
This is a flat Earth video. Enoch, he speaks of the boundaries, and this is the way they splay it out. But there's a huge problem with the map. Every degree you go east or north or south of the equator skews to infinity. And then this one here is just the opposite. It looks like it stretches it out and then shrinks it in.
Well, this is actually a concave Earth video, but the point is that there is a circular sun.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Because we haven't found.
According to this footage, anyways.
This is your only evidence?
Well, we can show you how to debunk this right now. It's so easy. Just pay attention to the color of the sky as it goes around.
It's just CGI.
Well,
because
the sky could still.
There's a cut.
No, when the sun sets, it changes colors and goes.
This isn't the only piece of footage. There's more. There's other ones. There's this piece.
This is nonsense too. CGI. Actually, if you look at the creator of this, it says that it's animation. Simon built Wooks or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and he'll give you a strike if you use it.
Yep. You should probably. Yeah, you better change this one. They'll try to copyright the video. This is CGI. The sky changes colors drastically in the summer months in the north. I have family that live in Grand Prairie, and the sun goes down at like 11:30 at night, and the colors are just absolutely phenomenal. And this 24-hour stuff that they tried to pull out of CGI had only a blue sky. It's a huge fail.
Okay.
CGI.
Okay. Yeah, I mean I guess that's the problem with seeing footage off the internet. It really becomes difficult to know what to trust. So,
well, you'd think if it was real, you could type it in and there'd be hundreds and hundreds of videos. Just like when you type in clouds behind the sun, you'll find hundreds and hundreds of different people verifying it for themselves, and that is what we use. We don't speak any lies here. We go with straight factual truth.
stuff like airplanes watching sunsets, when they're flying at 30, 35,000 or whatever, and seeing what takes place, but from a whole multitude of people. You get to see it over and over again from different vantage points. The 24-hour up all day sun, it's really super, super sketchy, because out of maybe the 10 videos purport to support it, they're all CGI.
And, well, no, they'll say the midnight sun and then the sun will set.
Yeah, well, that's totally different. That's not an up all day sun.
Yeah, but we've got so much to get through. So if we're going to talk about, how we measure light, I could take the screen share for a second and interject really quick with a piece of evidence for the concave community to hear. I don't always go with every single person's scientific beliefs, but on this one, I do agree with what Mr. Smoot is saying. One second.
Mr. Smoot.
Oh yeah, here, I just wanted to show all the concave earthers. I was doing experiments with my thinking and my editing skills back in mid 2016, and I was applying this principle and method, trying to understand maybe if sunlight was bouncing and reflecting, or if different atmospheric pressures could. So the way they achieved this was using different laser heads, angling the light, and as well they have different densities of sugar in this container. And if people want to say that this is the way that the sun's working, we drive a wedge in it when we put distance between ourselves and clouds, right, in the way that everything works. But we'll just quickly play this one clip I have lined up here.
Universe, and if you take the model of the galaxy out.
I got it way too fast. Did I screen share the sound? Can you guys hear?
I heard it.
You end up with a map that looks like that, right? So, but modeling the galaxy was the tricky part. So we did with cuts and we did with subtractions, and got pretty similar answers, but we were being careful. Okay. And so not so long after that, we did 2 more experiments. These are balloon-borne experiments. They were maximum and boomerang, and we had a big group, and then half of the group split off and went to Caltech, but we stayed collaborating. So now, if I put my shadow here, maybe you guys can see there's an actual map there. The size of the moon is about this big. So this covers a reasonable part of the sky, but you're seeing very clear structures. And when I first saw this map, and we were having our team meeting, I said, the universe is flat. And Radek Stomper, who's some of you may know, he says, no, don't jump to conclusions. If I said, I've already seen 500 simulations, I know which the flat universe looks like, and I'll show you some examples later. So I promised I would talk to you about, is the universe flat? And the answer is very simple. We look here with our eyes, and we judge how big things are by projecting back in straight lines. And if the universe is curved, the light will travel a curved path. Otherwise, we get this nice Euclidean geometry and an expanding universe, which is a little trickier. Or if it's open, you have the other thing. So I have this nice video. This tells you the same pattern on the sky does this, but here's a nice little video that WMAP paid for that does it. So we're out in the universe. We're going to put out our imaginary physics grid lines. There's the pattern in the real universe. And if we assume the universe is flat, light's going to travel in straight lines. And we'll see a nice picture that looks just like the universe, right? But if the universe is closed, light gets bent towards us and things get magnified and look bigger. And if the universe is open, things get pulled in and therefore they look to be.
So this was an experiment that he conducted at Berkeley. George Smoot, there's a bunch more too. He advocates the same things that we do, that we're in a simulation, even though I don't think he agrees on who the creator is with us. But as you can see here, the way that the heat signatures that they took from their balloon-borne experiments, they didn't fly up in any rockets. They didn't do any nonsense. You can do the back check on the research yourself. I implore everybody that thinks that they live on a ball or inside of a sphere, because the geometry and the way that we see and the way that we measure things, it comes back flat. So I'll hand did anyone want to take the screen share again? Because that should basically end, in my opinion, that pretty much ends the whole idea of whether we're living in a concave or a convex Earth. These experiments have been done. They did them. They ran the multiple simulations that matched, and I don't know how it's just us that's reporting on this.
Well, the curvature is a big topic. Do you want to, is there more that you want to support that there's up curvature, Joshua, before we move on to a different topic?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take the screen share. Sure. From what I gather, I have never seen, okay, for example, the plumb bob experiments. There are no plumb bob experiments that show convexity or flatness there for me to debunk. The only plumb bob experiments show concavity to be debunked. And then we've got laser experiments. We've got laser experiments where they run lasers across a body of water, like the Lake Zagrinsky experiment. When they took a measurement in the middle, it showed concavity. You can measure from one side to the other and disprove the convexity, but if you're not going to measure in the middle, you can't claim flat because you haven't actually proven a shape. So then there's that.
Are you familiar with tilt meters at all? Have you ever come across those?
A tilt meter? No, go ahead. Do you want to tell me what that is?
Yeah, it's interesting. Its fundamental principle is that a water bubble seeks up in a denser fluid, right? Just like a spirit level.
Mm-hmm.
So they have like a domed type container that they put a bubble in, and then they have sensors all around it. And, they've gotten their accuracy to being able to measure to the billionth of a degree whether or not something's tilting. Would you agree that something like a tilt meter going over large areas of land or water or anything like that shows this super hyper accuracy would be able to determine whether or not it was flat or whether or not it had this 8 inches per mile squared plus?
Well, it depends on what it's using to determine its level.
A bubble going up.
Huh?
A bubble rising. That's how the tilt meters function.
Okay, so you're talking about like a spirit level bubble.
Yeah, but in these tilt meters, they've got that bubble inside this canister that has all these sensors on it, and they can be so accurate as to a billionth of a degree.
I'm sorry, I'm looking for a specific image that I created, and I can't find it now. I don't know where it went. But anyway, all right. So I mean, basically, I mean it. There in the spirit level. I mean, the truth is kind of shown right to you right there. I mean, right in the spirit level. I mean, the ethanol is concave. First of all, that's what air pressure alone will do to any fluids, and that's why they use ethanol, is because it's a thinner fluid and it doesn't take as much air pressure to create the bubble, if you will.
Yeah, it's just a bubble inside a vial that they measure whether or not that bubble is being tilted in any which direction around, right? Just super highly accurate.
Right.
So that would, in your concave Earth, would the bubble always go to the center, or would it be level?
Well, in the concave Earth, just like the convex Earth, see the whole phrase level. Water finds its own level. It works on all three. It works in the convex. It works on flat. It works on concave, because on the two spherical Earth models, anything level is going to be anything perpendicular to the center of the Earth, whether it be below you or above you, concave or convex. And so as long as something is parallel to the water, it's perpendicular to the center of the Earth, then it's going to remain level. And so, I mean, if you're going to use levels to determine whether something is flat or not, well, yeah, you're going to get straight readings every time, because as long as you maintain level, whether
Screen
you're
malfunction.
An downwards curve or whether you're following an upwards curve, you're still going to end up going straight the whole way. You're going to end up convincing yourself it's flat. But really, you're just following the curvature of universal compression itself, because if you're following the upwards curvature of the earth, then that means the forces emanating from above your head, the pushing and pulling forces, they are also following the curvature of the earth. So, for example, as an airplane flies, it's maintaining altitude. It's maintaining the same distance from the ground, and it's also maintaining the same distance away from the ceiling, the firmament at the Kármán line. Okay, so as it maintains altitude, it's going to maintain pressure. It's going to maintain, it's going to find that pressure. So it's going to maintain etheric pressure, and so so whether the airplane is curving up concave or whether it's curving down convex, it's going to remain level, even if it's flying down or flying up. It's still going to. Now, the downward force on the convex Earth doesn't make sense because it's gravity. So I still don't think it works on the convex model, but the concept is the same. Level works. I mean, it's really a silly phrase when you actually think about it.
Can I get a sound check from the chat? Is my mic better now? It sounded like I was screaming at people, but you know, one thing that I know with using a bubble is that it basically tells you, what does a bubble tell you, Jason?
Up.
Up. Thank you. Up.
It always tells you up. And then
The way I see it,
can tell you if it's
always
still
being
inside
pushed
that.
down, right?
So, hypothetical question for you. Our experiment that we've wanted to do for flat Earth to prove it is use a water level. And we wanted to go out to a beach, a shoreline, and use a surveyor to set heights of pins optically within the distance, within the tolerances that their equipment could work. We also wanted to run the water level and see if it was level for 3 miles. A globe earther would think that there's a hump in that beach, and you would think there's a concavity to that beach. So do you really think that out at a beach, building a seawall for 3 miles, that if it was started at 4 feet in the middle, 4 feet at the end, that you could not make that whole thing truly level, one flat, perfectly straight shot, no dip in it, no hump to it, and have it follow the water line? Do you
Right.
think
So
that's
what you're talking about is something similar to the rectilineator and similar to the fishing line experiment, which I think is a good experiment, the fishing line.
that catenary? It sags.
Yeah, it's a really bad experiment.
Yeah.
Well, no, you've got to select the fishing line that's the same density as the water, which is difficult to do.
The weight
right.
alone of this.
Actually think about when you actually start brainstorming and actually try to find, okay, how do we get tangible experiments on water? You're going to find that it's very difficult. And actually, Ruben had a really good here in Spain. There's this place where there's all these, like each one of these is a canal. It's a stationary canal with very still water, and you can do measurements here. And this would be actually a great spot to conduct all these fishing line experiments or any type of experiment where you're actually taking tangible measurements of water. Remember, with bending light in atmospheric conditions, the optical experiments are only going to show you so much. But if you want conclusive proof, we've got to actually measure points on the water surface.
Wouldn't you say, though, if I was to take a water level,
once and for all, is this convex, is it flat, or is it concave? The footage
sorry. Well, if I was to use a water level to do, half a mile, and the water was level on both sides, then wouldn't you just have to use that for the entire distance of the water everywhere? Like, if its properties are to level out, why would you suppose that it's doing an anti-curvature? But it's like looking at the horizon again. It's a flat horizon, and the people on the sphere say you're looking at curve, and you're saying no, it's flat, and they're saying no, you're looking at a curve, and now you're telling me it's the inside of a curve.
The point is if nobody's going to measure, then the argument's going to exist forever.
Yeah, we want to do the water level test. Maybe we will get a chance to do it, but when we do that, everyone says, "Oh, that's just equidistant to the center of the Earth now," which is again not repeatable, testable, and verifiable, in my opinion.
Right. So what I'm finding, what is repeatable, is that anytime somebody else does measure, they're finding concavity, whether it's plumb bob, whether it's laser, whether it's fishing line, no matter what kind of test it is. This is the FE core one. So we're finding lots of
FE
evidence
Core
of-
is just a nightmare, man. We've been calling them out since their inception, and before that, they're a disinformation campaign set up to make Flat Earth look stupid.
Well,
have you inspected Bob's rotation experiment?
Listen, I understand everybody is very suspect. So I'm not saying
Well,
I'm not saying that I trust everything out there that I see, obviously.
everything.
But what I am saying is that I am getting a consensus of concavity. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but everything from the Freemason AE map and modelers is all wrong. The entire thing. It's just a psyop.
Right. And the AE model and map is based on flat water, which I disagree with.
Didn't they do a test in the mountains where they were measuring a valley? Like that's a bowl-shaped valley. It's where they chose to measure the Earth. And then I heard that guy say that he didn't flip the corrector on. Okay, you have basically what I was showing right there. Right?
What? Yeah, I'm not saying I can prove that their experiment was accurate. That's not what I'm claiming.
Yeah, we're using this.
Is that it's just another source reporting concavity.
Our map is a stereographic hyperbolic. That's the kind of projection we use. We mix those together. That's.
Can I do a share quick?
Yes, I'll stop sharing real quick. I was looking for something I couldn't find it.
It's interesting that you have those.
I've been losing a lot of photos. There's stuff there that I'm looking for that it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
So Ronnie and we are all about actually doing the experiments and making the observations and testing and doing all that kind of stuff. So, the heliocentrists, guys like Soundly, have you seen the footage that he says is actually real live streamed footage?
Oh, I'm sick of all this. Yeah, we don't have to.
Have you ever seen this?
I'm sick of seeing this.
So I actually went out to Lake Pontchartrain.
Yeah.
And did the observation myself.
Yeah. Good.
And so here's a orthographic side view of that same section taken with DJI Phantom 4 Advanced.
Okay.
And
it's going to be something that's recognizable throughout the shot.
So this is that same footage that apparently you're familiar with. All right. And supposedly it's all live stream. Supposedly it's verified, documented that there's that much curvature and it matches reality. But
well, it's obviously not downwards curvature because, I mean, you could just look at it and see that there's a mismatch there. Like the horizon is so short and reduced.
That's your distance to the vanishing point, which would be your distance to the horizon.
Yeah. We've all dissected and looked at that Lake P footage so many times.
Nobody's been there and done the pan that Jason just did.
Same thing. We all understand that as.
Look, as you rise, you see more distance to the horizon on a flat plane. That's how perspective works in this reality. Right?
And we're not going to argue that this.
Also see more distance to the horizon on a concave Earth too, because on both flat and concave models, there's more Earth.
No. Again,
water.
You can't look at the flat horizon and say that it's curving up. I have to disagree with you. Left to right would be the same amount of curvature as. And you said when we started off that it was.
No, Jason, you're not gonna see a smiley face curve like that, because Jason, if you're on the.
That's Ronnie. That's Ronnie.
I'm sorry,
That's
Ronnie.
okay.
If you're on the bottom of the inside of the sphere, no matter your 360-degree panorama, it's going to be a flat line all the way around you. If you're 100 feet in the air and you just rotate yourself 360 degrees, your horizon's going to be a straight flat line, even on the inside of a sphere. And if you go up another mile, you're still.
I would say that's a little bit of mind control. Again, that's.
No.
Looking at
really.
something and saying that's not what you're seeing. We're like, no, that's what we see. It's flat.
Well, it's hypothetically if you were.
What I'm saying is
you
should see a flat horizon on the inside of a sphere, because there's still more Earth to see in the background. You should see a convex curve because there's not more Earth beyond the horizon. It's just empty airspace. So there should be a frown face, downwards, convex, horizontal, left to right curve.
Mm-hmm.
But on the inside of a concave Earth, you should still have a left to right flat horizon.
You're saying
What
the
is your-
sky. Go ahead.
Because you're on the inside of a bottom of a sphere.
Of a
So
ball.
What's
as
the-
far as light can reach, it's going to curve up and away from you, but you're still going to get.
What's the distance to a horizon in concave Earth?
Well, it all depends on the atmosphere. I mean, the clearer the atmosphere, the further you can see. Well, that's true in any Earth. I mean, that's.
But you're talking about elevation right now, is right? The distance to the horizon. You're saying that it's going to rise up around you. What's the distance in concave Earth?
I don't know what distance you're looking for.
The horizon, like this horizon. When we started off at the ground, the distance to the horizon was like 3 miles.
Okay.
And then now, as we're up in the air right now, our distance to the horizon is probably more like 20 miles.
Sure. So you can you can see further as you rise.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Yeah.
would be true whether the Earth is slightly concave or flat. You can still see further the higher you ascend. However, if you actually think about it, if you ascend, if you're standing on the if you live on a globe Earth, the outside, the convex, rotating or otherwise, doesn't matter. If you're on the outside of a ball, then in theory you're always on the top of that ball. So if you rise, the horizon should drop lower and lower and lower if you're rising on a ball. Now, just like this, you've got downwards curvature like this. So if you rise, you're going to have to look down to see the horizon. The higher you go, the more down you have to look. Okay, now if the Earth is a flat plane like this, now as you rise, you guys can see my screen. As you rise, you're still going to have to look down to see the horizon. Even if your horizon is increased over here, it's still at a downward angle. The only way to rise and still have the horizon at eye level is if the Earth is rising. The only way the horizon rises with you is if the horizon rises with you.
But that's not true. I've modeled that up. We can do it with 3D modeling to show that on a flat plane, you use something as basic as SketchUp.
Right, but what will happen is you'll just have a fixed horizon in the center frame, and so it's just an optical illusion. It doesn't make sense that on a flat Earth, the higher you rise, the horizon reaches your eye level. It doesn't make sense. You should have to look down to see the horizon. No matter
your
how
vanishing
far you
point
can see,
continues to
it's
move.
still going to be some type of downward angle.
To a small degree,
The
there
horizon on
is.
a flat
But
Earth, the only way it works is if the Earth is curving up.
No, because what you can do is you can draw like a flat plane within the 3D modeling software to scale.
I know. Skiba did it too. Well, all he did was he had a fixed horizon, center frame, and all he really did was lower the, instead of rising on a flat plane, all he really did was drop that flat Earth floor, but he kept it fixed at the other end.
Phuket Word showed it as well. You don't see further to the vanishing point on a ball. And I submit that it would be the same on the inside of the ball. It does not match reality.
No, because on the outside of
you'd
the ball,
be raising your head closer to the spherical
curvature.
curvature. You're telling me that the sky is rising behind my head, coming down to the close to the Earth, and then curving back up. A sphere inside of I'm looking up. Everything looks flat, but you're telling me the sky is a sphere coming down on me. That's what it baffles me.
I don't know why wouldn't you see a flat horizon on the inside of a sphere? Tell me why you wouldn't see a flat horizon.
Well, because the 8 inches per mile squared would be going the opposite direction, right? It would be going up the wall, every which direction you're looking up the wall.
Right.
It's got to be more than 8 inches per mile squared. So with the modeling, we can already show that everything.
So even if it's more.
So the buildings, if we modeled this out, these far buildings out here at the horizon, with a curvature of Earth, this would be wrapping up the wall visibly already. We can model that.
Right,
no problem.
Right, but that's based on the concept of straight light. If you're not accounting for bent light, well, that explains it all right there. What we don't understand is that the light is not traveling in a straight path, and our line of sight is not traveling in a straight path, and we can prove that by zooming. When we zoom, we can't keep center, and that's because light is bending. So if light is bending, our eyesight's going to follow the curvature of that bent light, and it's going to line up.
Zooming is
right.
No zoom. Jason, do you want to bring that up? So Let's watch this.
This is another experiment that I just did. It was too busy at the mall, but I want to document people as they walk away from me. This is like one of the longest, most perfectly flat places that I could find in the Austin area. That on a less busy day, I want to just film people walk and at mid-mall here, they begin to disappear from the bottom up. But it's truly a flat floor.
Sure.
And so when I sat the camera down here and first started zooming in, I understand what you're talking about. You see, as I'm having to tilt the camera up from the floor. I go back and forth here a couple times where it zooms into the floor. And I know what you're talking about, where I had to tilt up the front of the camera a little bit. Right? Is that what you've been talking about with the...
Not necessarily. What I'm saying, may I share screen real quick?
Yeah, but
Well,
I
let's
just
finish the point here. Yeah.
Yeah, I just
Go
want
ahead
to
and finish. Yeah, go ahead and finish.
get the point across here that without tilting up the front of the camera, it would disappear into the carpet in front of me in maybe before this wall here, so less than 100 feet. Just zooming without tilting the camera would just bury itself into the carpet. I would see nothing but carpet. And so for that to be the case, that would mean that the amount of curvature in the shot right here would have to be on a earth that was...
You might have just been angling the camera down. I mean, if
So
you're
no.
zooming into carpet, you might...
The experiment matches what yours did, and he's doing it in a flat, perfectly flat hallway. And you're saying again that there's curvature.
What isn't proven is a level camera here, though. So we don't know if the camera's inclined, declined, level. We don't know.
He says he has to incline it as he zooms in because you're magnifying that spot. So when you zoom, there's a lot of flat earthers that go around with disinformation saying they can bring things back over the curve. That's absolute nonsense. All a zoom does is magnify a certain area in your field of view. That's it.
Yeah, I had to tilt it up. I took the camera strap and put it under the wedge plate and had to tilt it up so that that horizon line right there would be in the middle of the frame, which was my target. Without tilting it up, it would just bury itself into this carpet within 100 feet here.
That's exactly what your experiment showed.
Yeah.
Right, but you're saying without tilting it up, you don't know, because I've done this same experiment, a very similar one. It was outdoors, but I just had a book and the P900 right on top of it, so I got it. It's titled Flat Earth at 2-inch altitude, and I've done this as well.
I'm adjusting the height of the strap there.
I didn't prove whether my camera was level. My intention was different. I don't know what your goal here in this experiment was. I might have had a different goal, but
yeah. Well, see those feet off in the distance.
Yeah, they're cut off and they're miraged. The same thing happened in my footage when I went to
in reality
Clough State Park with Jibby.
Wow. So you verified that that's what you get outside of the beach, the same mirage that he's showing kind of right there, where the feet
we weren't at the beach. We were on top of a dam. It was It was pavement. Yeah, it was a long dam that we were walking along the top of.
Yeah, so this is already beginning within 100, 200 feet here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you'll get those mirage and distortion effects if you're right along the surface of a flat surface. Yeah. Yeah.
So this whole having to tilt the camera up to the horizon as like a proof of a concave Earth, this feature, this effect happens within like 100 feet.
Well, what I'm talking about has to do with level and center of frame, and this particular footage has nothing to do with being level or having anything center of frame.
Oh, this was just a test to find a place. I'll document that it's perfectly level, and I'll live stream it and have it all back checked, verified, time stamped. I'll probably even hire a model on a day, just like, and have a model do the walk and really just do it up, the music, everything.
Nice.
But yeah, it'll show that it does bury itself into the ground, unless if you're tilting up that front edge when you're zooming in.
Yeah, I mean, even perspective perspective and the air and everything, that those observations are possible on a flat. So in fact, I have one of my actually my
Give a
most
different
popular video was one of those experiments where I did the coin on the table thing, and I just moved the coin away from the camera, and I prove that objects will be eclipsed bottom first on a flat surface. It doesn't. You don't need a convex or a concave surface. So I agree that these observations are possible on a flat surface. But what I also agree with is that on a slightly concave surface, those same observations can be made.
That's a contradiction, though.
Not really. No. Because in the concave Earth, there's still more land to see. In the convex Earth, there's just airspace. There's a horizon, and then there's nothing there. But both flat and concave, there's more to see. There's long distances possible. There's more land to see in the background. Flat horizons are possible inside a sphere.
You can share again if you want to.
Yeah. Okay. I think I will, because I want to show you that footage that I was talking about. Because it's oops.
I'll be right back.
Sure. Let me see here. Which channel am I on? All right. Damn. I'm always on the wrong one. All right, here we go. So I'll go to my channel here. And so this video here, here we go. This video here is where Jibby and I did something very similar at this dam here in New Hampshire. So I'll just speed this up a little bit. Well, here we go. I was a flat earther at the time. And so basically all right. So yeah, so it was a DVD case, not a book. So just a little DVD case. We put that, and I put the Nikon on top of it. And we just want to show that the bottoms of things can be hidden, like ships or buildings, based on perspective and atmospheric effects that.
Okay. You don't need atmospheric effects at all.
No. Well, I disagree. I mean, that's what these mirages. I assert that these mirages exist
as you zoom in, you're creating a smaller vanishing point. Therefore, you'll see less and less of the object due to its distance from you and your height.
Right, but there's got to be a reason why we're seeing a mirage right here on the.
It's a reflection.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's an atmospheric effect, a reflection. I'm just broad brush atmospheric effect. You know what I mean?
And
my footage was in a mall.
Okay.
Controlled atmosphere.
Yeah, no sun, no. The same effects happened.
Same effects.
Well, all right. So the point I'm making here is you cannot see his feet, and we're still on a flat surface. So just because someone's feet are missing does not mean it went over a curve.
Correct.
Right. So I mean, this is just shit flat earthers do, right? I mean, this is nothing complicated. I'm not even using this as concave evidence or anything like that. This is just something similar to what you did.
Right.
Just to reciprocate, you know what I mean? And the other experiment I was talking about that I said was one of my more, what was this one where I showed that, where I just showed this basically. I mean, I got a level P900, centered, and this coin, this object is going to get eclipsed. Now it's a flat table, and right there, bam, you can already see that part of this coin is,
That's right.
So on a flat surface, it doesn't, that's me doing it in the office at a.
And if you were to raise the camera or the coin, you'd then see more of the flat surface. You've created a static vanishing point in this shot by having the camera still and moving the coin away. Right? If you were to bring the coin towards the camera, you would start to see more of it from the top down.
What would you see there if that was a concave desk?
Well, you'd see it curving upwards a little bit.
It would go down in the middle, right?
This would
and then in the other side it would come back up again.
You're always at the bottom.
Okay, so it's like the ball when you're always on the top. You're always at the bottom.
The Earth is so big. I mean, we're talking about 4,000 mile radius here. So, if this was a concave table, if the concavity was the same concavity as the Earth, then for all we know, this table is the same concavity as the Earth. In a 9-foot table, there's really not going to be much concavity if you're going to scale it to Earth. So if this were a concave table, we'd probably see the same exact thing, because the concavity at this scale would be so slight, it'd be almost identical.
But if we exaggerated it so it'd be easy for us to see, we would need the table to be concave both in the X and Y axis, right? To model it correctly.
Which is why you would still see a flat horizon inside the bottom of a sphere.
But as you looked, it would go up the wall as it went away from you.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, there'd be I mean, anything inclining is going to go up and away from you.
Yeah.
Right.
And its plumb would have to change. So spirit bubbles and everything would have to be adjusting to some other center.
Right. Another like how I said up and away from you. This high altitude footage here shows the sun doing exactly that. The sun, when the sun sets, oh, this video won't load. What the heck? When the sun actually sets, it's actually setting. Oh, it's actually going away and up. And if this darn video would just play, that's weird. I've got
away and up. That's another huge problem for me right there, because I film sunsets.
Right, and so everybody has their personal perspective range. I don't know why this won't play. And so realizing that as something moves away from you, even flat earthers understand, something going overhead, it's going to look like it goes from one horizon to the other horizon, arching over you, just like an airplane, but it's really just flying level overhead. It's not actually going down over a convex curve.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to see the sun slide down our personal perspective level, but the sun is actually moving up and away.
Up and away.
Again, that's
the sun is rotating away and up in this footage. You can see that the sun's rotating away and up.
No,
we can follow it. It goes down.
It would be above the horizon. It would be full size going up, like in our sky. It wouldn't be down at the horizon whatsoever.
Right.
So how do you explain the sun beneath the clouds in your model?
Yeah, if you go to that video on your channel, we'd like to show you something that's pretty funny. We can get to the magnetic water after we go to the clouds behind the sun.
What was your question, Jason? You had said.
Yeah. How do you explain the sun beneath the clouds in your model?
Okay, sun beneath the clouds. All right. So what I'm going to do is, I actually did a video on that last night, and I uploaded it to both channels, and. Okay. So I'll just play this. How about that?
Okay.
How can flat earthers actually believe that's the actual sun right there? 500 yards above the earth. That's stupid. Come on. The sun is not actually right there. How would half the earth have sunlight if the sun was actually that close to the earth? Look how close to the earth that sun is. It's obviously just an apparition. That's where the sun is seen by this camera. At eye level, mind you. The sun is at eye level as well as the horizon. Very interesting, isn't it?
It's not eye level. It's
it's actually descending. It's appearing
declining, right?
Yeah,
declination.
Full size, not shrinking.
Perspective bubble. Look at that. The sun's just descending, just like that.
There's clouds behind it too.
That's obviously
clouds behind
an illusion.
This is really horrible footage, though, eh?
Well, it's just me recording.
It looks like the sun's about to crash into the earth. Oh no!
That's not funny. We've all watched sunsets our whole lives, right?
It literally looks like the sun is crashing into the earth.
But
obviously
you
that's not
like,
happening.
You guys understand that
Which
the sun
means
is
that's not
actually
the actual
really
position of the sun.
We're gonna bring some.
The sun can't. The sun. I mean, this sun is like less than a mile in altitude. That cannot work. That can't work. If that's the only sun, that can't make any sense because other people thousands of miles away are also seeing the sun right there in their own sky, 1 mile up. So
every single person. Every single person sees the sun, moon, and stars in the sky rotate.
Go to the end of this. You've actually got the
Yeah.
Yeah, right there. Hit play.
Right. Well, I can
Watch this. Someone's put an overlay on the right side. Look at this. Hit play.
What I'm actually going to do is, instead of looking at this recording of my, I'm going to give credit to the because this is basically recast Kring's video.
Oh, okay.
Bottom. Some bobs.
It's funny. The person that edited, there it is, right? Or that was on your channel.
8.22 inches
there it is.
greater.
Yeah, this is the actual video.
If you go to the end,
it's better quality because it's not me using a cell phone to record my laptop. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. If you go to the end there, you're going to see that he's clearly. You can probably mute it.
I've actually used this footage in one of my own videos.
Right. And so it appears that the sun is just descending, like, oh, it's crashing into the earth. But obviously that's not true. The sun is not crashing into the earth. It's just appearing to set there because that's where this camera is, and this camera is going to see the sun there. And a balloon, so this balloon's like right there in the clouds, 1 mile altitude, maybe half mile, 3/4, whatever.
And then where will the sun be then?
A 20-mile altitude balloon, excuse me, is going to show the sun right there the sun's going to be 20-mile altitude right with the balloon. So it's like the sun is always going to manifest itself close to you, which I think
not once it's below the clouds, though. We can go to any footage of people filming the sunset.
But the sun is never actually in the clouds. The sun sometimes appears in the clouds, appears below the clouds, appears above the clouds. The sun is never actually in any of those places. The sun is on the other side of the firmament.
In a dodecahedron in the center of this concave Earth.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I want to.
It's a problem.
See the end of this footage, and I also want to show other footage.
Yeah, go right there. There's an overlay set on top of this image to the left in the center because it actually right there. Pause it. So whoever made this original video was actually trying to deceive people. He was trying to hide the fact that there were clouds literally going through the sun and behind the sun.
I don't think so. I think what he's doing is
look at the overlay. Look at that. What do you mean? This is nonsense, bro. Garbage.
If you keep watching, he's going to show you that there's not power lines behind.
It's not about the power lines. That's an issue with focal length.
There's no power lines in the shot.
Watch.
He had an overlay. He was hiding it. Jason used this. Look at that right there.
There's an overlay there.
It
must be the next video then. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I know this footage. I've already
earlier in the video.
But yeah, Jason, why don't you take the screen share and show him a little bit of good footage instead of this stuff? Show him, because he doesn't know, right? And I don't blame you guys for not knowing.
Yeah, it's just this information stuff that's out there to confuse people. But this is something, sunset from airplane. You can type it into Google. You can go through and look at thousands and thousands and thousands of videos. And watch something like this. Yeah, let me turn that down. Where
did the sun go? I mean, it's obviously the sun didn't shrink into a little Pizza Hut lid. The sun is not actually, that's just an apparition of the sun, what we're seeing right there. That can't be the sun hiding in the trees. Where did it go?
It's the sun. It was above the clouds, right? This footage starts here, but you can find it anywhere. Sunset. Other people have this footage.
Right, but what I'm saying
it was above the clouds up here.
The sun just disappears into nothing. Well, where did it go? It obviously is just an apparition of the sun. Otherwise, it wouldn't disappear. If that was the actual sun, it would just. Did it sink into the dirt or the trees? Where did the sun go? It's obviously just an apparition disappearing.
This is the clouds that the airplane's flying above right now. Right. So you're suggesting that this light is coming from center of Earth, which would be overhead, 59 miles, and that light's being projected down and it's hitting the top of the clouds, and somehow it goes down through the clouds as well, because we were just looking at that footage, and I've got so much of that on my channel. I've dedicated a lot of time to that, but this is what happens when the sun goes down. Fortunately, these people had a zoom camera as well.
Right.
You can see where the light. You can see
the actual. That's an apparition of the sun. So when we see double suns.
We don't use words like apparition. We talk about observable.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, it's
verifiable.
That's not the actual sun.
How many suns do you see there?
0. I see one apparition.
Here, I can blow your mind in another way here too. Check this out. This absolutely. So what you might be subject to right now is someone that believes like earthly materialism, like atoms and photons and like rock is rock and everything in your mind, you see this reality as a physical place. And we're telling you that it's a supernatural spiritual realm. Right? So
Well, it is a physical place. We have tangible objects that have.
But here's the proof. If me and you were both standing at the edge of a shoreline and there was a sun across it, and I was watching from a mile away from you, and I see a light of ray coming across the water dancing on the waves to me, directly to my line of sight, and you a mile away from me has the exact same ripple of light across the top of the water, yet I can't see your reflection.
Exactly.
And you
can't see mine because everybody gets their own, which is the same. I'm glad you brought that up. That's the same thing Mark Sargent said with the moon reflections off the lake water at night. It's the same thing. Everybody gets their own reflection, which is why everybody gets their own sun, because the sun we see is an apparition. It's a reflection because the light's actually coming through layers of glass.
Why would you infer reflection? And then all this glass, none of that is measurable. It's really not.
Because right here,
you're saying. So I don't know your opinion of the firmament, Ronnie. So
yeah,
watch the sun disappear below the clouds.
Right,
underlighting it as it goes.
How come it's not circular anymore? And where is it going? Why?
That's the top of the disc.
This is the very top.
But what I'm saying is, shouldn't the sun be moving further along over the flat Earth? Like, why is why is it shrinking into a little sliver for?
Because everybody has a equidistant spot that the sun rises and sets through its path during the day. And here is the actual flat representation. Even though the map itself isn't perfect, but the representation of the shadows and the sun's rise and set paths are exactly the way they would demand, including the analemma and the 6 gates that Enoch wrote about. They're
right. So I noticed you have over the city, you have this little bubble over the city. What is that bubble meant to represent?
It's the sun. This is our model. We didn't have to build it ourselves, but it is our model.
No, but what I'm saying is, what is that bubble that's over the city?
That's the representation of the analemma. It's the sun's path and the moon and the stars. They all travel through that. That's the equatorial path, and the analemma is a snapshot once a month, right? Or bi-monthly.
This half dome is not like an actual dome over a flat Earth. What you're saying this dome is just your circle of sight, right?
Well, we're saying that you're in a simulation, right? It's not a physical reality, but it feels that way. And everybody can see the sun rise from that point on the map on a flat Earth, and then they can watch it go up through the sky, through the clouds, back up above the clouds, and then they can watch the sun come back down and set there. And it works.
So what you're saying is this is all happening on a flat plane. So it's not actually moving in an arch over us, but it's traveling laterally over a flat Earth, right?
No, that's free energy. That's just nonsense. Again, you're misrepresenting what we see. We see it do this parabolic arc across the sky, an arch, a bow, like the scriptures would state.
So if you come down here and place yourself as the observer at the very, very pinpoint right here, and you look to the horizon, this is where you're at right now. So we could verify this. What's the date today? May 23rd, right? So this is the way the sun rose, and you can check it against any post, street sign, stop sign, anything like that. See where the sun rays come from, and this is.
I have a question that matters.
Yeah.
Real quick. All right. So are you guys saying that there is no actual sun? Everyone sees their own sun, which means there is no position of the sun. Is that what you're saying?
Your location on the map, your latitude and longitude determines. Let me show you what happens here as we change the date here. You see that analemma symbol?
Uh-huh.
Let me hit pause here. I'll bring the sun back up to sort of a midday. And now let's change the date and look at what happens here. All right, we're not changing the time. The time is staying fixed. But if you're taking snapshots day by day by day, what do you get? You get an analemma.
Right.
So this shows our sunrise angles as far as when it rises, when it sets on a compass.
I like this. I like what you did here. I'm serious. That's really cool that you did that. It works in it works in your explanation of Earth as a flat simulation, but this also works in the concave model. But regardless of which model you're trying to use this as evidence for, I think it's awesome that you did this, because this does represent what we would observe in reality, with where certain times of the year the sun is passing in an arch at this point in the sky, and then later throughout the year it's passing in a lower point in the sky, which is what causes the sun analemma. So I like that you did this. It's really cool.
So if you look at this yellow boundary out here that sort of net out in the sky, that to us, the one thing that we say is different here is in this model right here is made by heliocentrists. They're going to say the sun is 93 million miles away and blah, 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 blah. What we're saying is that this yellow path around you is what's visible in your circle of sight. And we've talked about this, that, you know, the distance of our circle of sight is based on our elevation. And in general, we don't really even see 40 miles in this world. 40 miles is a big stretch. You got to be looking at something like a mountain in order to see something 40 miles. So,
well, it depends on your altitude. I mean,
it does. But if in general, so this right here would expand or contract with your altitude.
Correct.
Right.
Also,
but what it does is it always maintains these angles. So we've got the date for you. We're watching the sunrise, sunset. You can double check and verify that this is the path that the sun has taken around you just by sticking a stick in the ground.
Right.
And so it does rise and it does set and it doesn't go away from you. It hook shots around you.
Right. Well, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is our model. And all you have to do is any place on the map right here, that's going to give you your altitude, your azimuth, and your
declination.
Well, declination, but latitude and longitude. The latitude sets. Watch what happens as I pull this push pin from Michigan here as I head down to the equator. Now you see how it's
straight overhead.
Look at the path that they have on the equator here.
Sure. At the equinoxes at the equator, you're going to
zoom in, Jason, and show them the six gates, right? Like as it states in Enoch.
Yeah. Here's the
gates that people want to call portholes, but a port was just an area where a boat would sail through.
Well,
right?
I'm just saying in English, that's what they're called. Is in the version of Enoch that I have that uses the word portals.
Yeah, and I explained to you it's a set direct measurement from like two posts. That's a portal, a portway. But count them, Jason. Show them.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean like some globby circle that you can teleport in time.
Yeah. We don't know. We'll go ahead, Jay. Show them.
You can see.
Could just be an area of space. A hockey goal could be a portal. You know what I mean?
You can see that they have the first
port. A port through the goalie. But go ahead.
First portal right there.
There's the first one.
A door is a portal. A window is a portal. You know, a mailbox hole is a portal. You know.
Here's the second one.
Doesn't necessarily mean something supernatural, you know.
The third one brings you up to the center, and the fourth one, then the fifth one, and the sixth one out here.
So that's how it's delineated. That's what gives you your seasons, right? As the sun traverses back and forth, it shows you the distance that it travels away from the equator, creating the larger bottom loop to the southern section of the map.
And this right here is. This right here is what super smashed the AE map and model for us. And that is as you go south here, watch now, hopefully you can see that the orientation, we're looking north now because we're going south of the equator. And so now as I'm pulling this down, you can see that noon declination continually getting lower and lower and lower. We'll come all the way down here. And now look at your rise and set angles.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see how far south of east that it's rising?
Right, like in Australia, the sun on the flat Earth, the sun would be setting to the northwest when it doesn't. It sets to the southwest.
South of east, south of west set, right? And it should always be setting north of west.
On the Gleason, it should set north
always.
West.
Always.
But it actually sets southwest.
And see this
strong evidence against the right. I get you, but
this right here is also got the longest path to travel. This is when the day is the longest.
Right.
Right. It's and then
Right, because it's making more than 50% of an arch. You can see the lines that connect on the flat surface. It's you're getting more than 50% of the circumference of that flat circle on the blue floor.
exactly, and you're getting a longer path, longer day.
You're getting almost 70% of that circle on the floor. So you're getting a lot of sun.
Exactly. And so you can move this around any location on Earth. All right, just this is our model right here. This matches.
Which I mean, if you're gonna, which is basically a micro model for every person, and so I won't even disagree with it because I know that it's accurate.
It is accurate. Verifiable.
And I do believe that this little, this personal Truman, if you will, model. I just call it Truman because it's like your personal visibility range, your circle of sight. This is supported in the concave model.
The problem I have with the Truman reference is that makes it the physical structure again.
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
and so what we don't support that. Our model is that there.
No. I didn't mean. Yeah. I mean, it's a slang term at this point, saying the word Truman.
But I mean, that literally is the snow globe,
AE map.
the domed structure.
I don't think there's any. Yeah, I don't think there's any dome cover over a flat Earth. No.
Well, and this is so nowadays. All these cities down south, somebody's got a live webcam. All you got to do is sit there and watch the rise and set shadows of any signpost or something in a shot. Mm-hmm. And this is testable, verifiable, repeatable, that the sun rises in your circle of sight. It has its overhead. So the clouds behind the sun is what we've always said takes place. Watch as it comes up on the other side here. I'll stop it. The sun rises at the horizon. It's very, very well documented. Full size. It comes up.
Under the clouds.
If you have clouds out here at the horizon in this area, you will see those clouds underlit.
Yeah. And I do agree that the sun does appear underneath.
Do you have some footage?
The clouds. Well, I mean,
how many show?
Yeah. I've got footage of the sun does appear.
No, Jason.
You can see the clouds.
Show him some clouds.
The apparition of the sun, and you can see.
So again, aberration. So we're saying it's supernatural, but you're saying no, it's an aberration inside a physical construct.
No. Let me finish. It is a physical manifestation for that eye because you can see the clouds, quote unquote, clouds behind the sun glowing. And so there is a representation of the sun in the clouds. I agree with that because you can see the glow of the clouds behind the sun. But I don't think that the actual sun, I think there's a tangible physical sun inside the firmament on the other side of the glass. And what we see on this side of the glass is an apparition. However, that apparition is in the clouds and it is causing the clouds to glow. So essentially the sun is in the clouds. I get it. I'm just saying, well, that's just it's a reflection of the tangible physical sun on the other side of the barrier inside the firmament. We're on the outside of the firmament. See, that's the difference between flat and concave. Is flat Earth, we're inside the firmament with the sun. In the concave Earth model, we're on the outside of the firmament and the sun's on the other side. Inside, we're outside the firmament because the firmament is a spherical ball above us and we're outside. That's why the fallen angels were cast out.
So here's two
it would
different.
It makes sense that the fallen angels were cast outward to the earth.
Down.
If right, I'm saying the flat Earth Gleason dome, right? If the fallen angels were cast out of heaven, then that means they were cast out. That would mean that they were cast into the earth underneath the flat Earth dome. But how is if the sun is inside the firmament and the angels are cast out of heaven? It's a mismatch. It doesn't work. The only way it works is in the concave model where the sun's on the inside and the fallen angels were cast out with us because we're out too. So that works in the concave model. The fallen angels were cast outwards because we're outside the firmament.
You really that's
two different clips with that pertains to this clouds behind the sun. This first one trying to take all the deniers, paths away. I do have an adjustable solar filter on the camera here, a variable. And then I also do a post-production with the emboss filter. And so this right here is super nails it. So this is just some of the original footage here. You can see that it's
that with a twist of the ring and the variable ND filter that I was able to keep the sun from being overexposed and blowing out the shot.
So I'm
this
adjusting
footage is sped up 400% to conserve time and for your viewing
keep
pleasure.
This crisp edge
I will share a link
around
to
the sun here without it being
unedited footage in the description if you want to study it in detail. Please sit back and relax as you watch clouds are clearly
get the clouds behind this whole stretch here. I'll speed this up quick.
For those that watch this but do not have eyes to see and go into denial thinking that it's the brightness of the sun shining through more transparent layers of clouds, there is a final nail in the coffin to your cognitive dissonance that has blinded you at the end.
And that's a reference to the emboss filter. So we'll jump ahead to that. This, when it goes into this poof cloud, it's pretty obvious where the light of the sun is.
Yeah, you can see the clouds glowing. Here's the light source there. I agree, but I don't think that's the physical, tangible sun. I think that's even a reflection will glow.
But it comes out beneath it, crystal clear again.
Yeah, listen, this is the basic magician's trick with the hula hoop. So there's no strings attached.
Well, what I'm saying is that that's an apparition of a real
What's
sun.
an apparition?
You guys are saying it's simulation.
Mm-hmm.
So you and I aren't really saying something that's all that much different if you actually think about it. You're saying it's a simulation. I'm saying it's an apparition. We're almost saying the same thing.
Yeah.
We're both saying there's a physical sun, and that's not it. But it's an apparition.
No,
it's
that's what we see. That's the sun. That's
light.
We're diametrically opposite. I don't think there's another sun in the middle of a dodecahedron. That's it, right there. There's the glorious sun. It feeds us. It's up there. It's beautiful. We don't worship it.
How do you explain the double sun or the double moon or the double rainbow? Don't you think that's evidence of
I can make a rainbow in my backyard with a hose. Right?
I know, but how do you make a double rainbow or double sun?
I've done that too. It's just the way that the water reflects light.
Did you right? The way it reflects. Right.
Yes.
So it's reflection.
Yeah, but you can't have a reflection with something behind it.
But see, now as this passes through this layer of cloud here and it comes clearly out below on the other side, nice and crystal clear, don't you think that your aberration, your light source being above here, would interact with the cloud and you would no longer be able to see
it does interact with the cloud. You can tell that the clouds are smearing that light. The clouds are actually altering the shape. It's not even a perfect circle anymore. The clouds are affecting the shape of the sun.
It's right in the clouds.
Yeah, I agreed. It's appearing. Yeah.
All right. So here's with the filter applied.
You know what I think? I think the actual sun might be from the actual light source from inside the celestial sun. Might actually be a laser. I don't know. Just a theory.
It would hit the top of the clouds and be dispersed.
It might be a layer coming through layers of glass. We might be looking at a circular manifestation of just a layer slapped on the outside of our viewability range. So we see a light in the sky. I don't know. It's tough to explain what the creator did. It's tough to put it into English words, but I can see how my observations match the concave model better than the convex or flat ones.
Can you see what happens with the emboss filter applied? How you can see a background layer, you can see the smooth disk of the sun, and then you can see the areas that have the clouds in front of the sun. But if you watch the background,
what's interesting to me is that blue. Like right around from 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock. If that circle were a face of a clock, right at 10 o'clock, right there. You see that circular blue sliver? That's really interesting right there.
Yeah, that shows higher contrast.
The perimeter of that circle, that's pretty cool, interesting. And on the left side, you see it's black. Near 8, 9, 10 o'clock, you see it's black, which kind of makes it look like it's like a it's sticking up, like it's a shadow. You know what I mean? It's weird.
So watch the clouds on the left hand side that you see moving here. See them in the background. Now let me rewind it and let you see that again. Watch the movement in the background.
So to me, it looks like the clouds are in front of us
and behind. That's right.
Yeah. Watch as it comes out through the bottom of this layer. All right, it's keeping its shape within the clouds.
Right.
It's not being distorted by the clouds whatsoever, and it watch as it descends out. It comes out below the clouds.
Right. What I'm saying is, I think that's there for each eye has its own perspective, its own position. It sees the sun, and like that's what I'm saying. I don't think the sun is like an omnidirectional light ball that is just in one place. What I'm saying is, I think each person has a different, like someone a quarter mile away is going to see that sun maybe 50 feet to the left in the same clouds. He's going to see it in a different spot. It's going to light up a different spot in the same cloud. The sun is going to actually be, for that viewer, the sun's going to be in a different spot in the same cloud. He's going to see it in a different spot because he's standing in a different spot, which means the sun doesn't have a singular position. If he changed his location, but the sun still appeared in the same spot of the cloud, well, that would mean that there's one sun and it's in a spot. But the fact that one observer can change his location, and based on changing the location, that changes the position of the sun, that means that sun's not actually there. It's an apparition. It's a reflection. It's something. It's obviously an apparition of some other. It's obviously not the original light source. It's a manifestation of light, but it's not the original light source. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I know what you're trying to get at, and that's the reason.
God created light, then He created the sun.
I know, but this is the clip that I would use to argue against what you just said right there.
I mean, if God created what light did God create? If the sun is our only light, then what light was created before? He didn't create the sun till day 4, according to Genesis 1. He created light right away, day 1 or day 2. So there's an original light source besides the sun.
Life,
which I believe there's a pure light we see. I believe there's a light source that is giving light to the sun.
He created day and night, first, beforehand.
Correct.
And that is
separation of light and darkness, which is what I believe the actual horizon is in high altitude balloon footage. I don't even think that's a separation of earth and sky. That's a separation of light and dark on the Earth's surface, and you're not going to be able to tell the shape of that Earth's surface because all that horizon's telling you is where the light is ending.
But that is our go-to proof that we're in a simulation from the Bible. Mm-hmm. The day and night were created.
I understand what you're saying, because on this side of the glass we are seeing, it's a simulation. It's a manifestation. It's an apparition, not aberration. I was saying APPARIT. You know what I mean? Apparition. No. It's appearing.
No.
Just like when you
that's
like,
just nonsense, brother. It's the sun is there.
Sunset, are you actually saying that the sun is going underwater, submerged in liquid?
Disappears at the horizon.
It disappears that way. No. So that's why I use the word apparition, because the sun's
I'm
not.
I'm sorry, we're just going to diverge on that. I think that's the actual sun.
The sun's not getting wet.
You can say that you think it's a fake sun or the none of it. We only can speak the truth. We don't.
You're saying simulation. I'm saying apparition, because obviously the sun isn't getting wet.
But inside the simulation, we're saying that's the real sun. That there's nothing fake about it. Each viewer has their own perspective.
I don't think it's fake. Yeah, we agree. Each person has their own perspective. Yeah, we're saying that we're really saying a lot of the same things. What you're saying your model is totally works within the concave model, because what we see on this side of the glass, as far as the lights, we're not seeing the actual lights. We're seeing
there's no glass either. Why is everything perfectly straight and correct in the sky, like the stars and the way that they work? There is a slight band.
You don't think there's a glass in the sky, a barrier?
Well, let's talk about this actual interaction of an airplane and the sun here, and tell me how far away you think the sun is, and whether or not the plane could interact with the sun. Okay. I gotta slow this down. It's too fast.
Well, I've seen this. You're going to see the airplane interact with the clouds right through the sun. Yeah, when it comes out of the sun, you see it leave like this, a brief trail of clouds, like
it does it before the sun as well, too, right?
Right, because because the light is reflecting off its path through the sky. Those engines are distorting the sky.
Do you see where it is right now? You see where it's beginning to emerge from within the circle of the sun?
Right. And this is strong evidence that supports my point. I want to thank you for because what's happening here is from what we're seeing from this camera's perspective, that airplane is behind the sun, which is not possible if the sun is actually there, because that would mean that those people in the airplane would have one hell of a story. Because
remember, it's equidistant. The sun's position is equidistant to the observer, and the higher you go, the further back the sun will be.
My point is the people in that airplane aren't seeing the sun.
No, the sun will be an even further distance back because of their elevation above the flat plane.
Right. So if this plane is flying through the sun, that means the people in the airplane, they didn't feel like they flew through the sun. They're seeing the sun like hundreds of miles.
That is a simulation realization. There's clouds behind it. It can't be projecting through the clouds.
Okay, so you call it a simulation, but we both agree that is not the actual position of the sun.
Yes, that's the sun. We can't we cannot prove anything to the contrary. You can't.
We agree that different people see the sun in different positions, right?
Yes.
Everybody sees the sun in a different position, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
I can show you.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Is that every person has their own position of the sun, quote unquote.
Exactly. If you move this pull pin around here, it adjusts the angle, the elevation, the timing, everything as you move this around, and it's rotating around you. That's observable and provable.
Exactly.
And so if an airplane is flying out here at the horizon where your sun's projecting to you from, it absolutely does something crazy like this.
Right. What it's actually doing is flying through clouds, and the light is reflecting off those clouds. The airplane's engines are affecting those clouds, and you can see the streak when the airplane flies through the cloud. It leaves like this, almost like blood coming out of a body if a bullet goes through it. The airplane just punctures through the cloud and disrupts the cloud, and the light is reflecting and showing it to you. That's what I think's happening there.
But there's no cloud. That's the only problem.
Well, there is cloud. You can see right underneath the airplane. It's flying through clouds.
No, but that's way off in the distance behind the sun.
No, those are clouds in front of the sun too. If the sun is in the clouds, that means there's clouds in front of the sun and clouds behind the sun.
But there's no clouds in front of the sun in this shot. It's all behind.
Well, I disagree. The sun washes out the clouds so that you can't really see it, but there are clouds.
But it's not washing out the plane there?
Right.
Because the plane is a more solid object, not a clear mist of a cloud,
We've all seen planes fly into clouds and they disappear right away. That's very, very visible, very observable. Plane goes into a cloud, it's gone.
So are you saying this? I mean, we both. I would say that this plane just flew through the apparition of the sun based on the position of this camera. That's what I would say here.
Okay. Well, I still don't understand how you get your apparition below the cloud.
This airplane did just fly through the sun.
Is it manifesting underneath the clouds?
This is where the sun is appearing based on the position of this camera that filmed it.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody else were filming 50 miles away, that camera would see the sun in a completely different spot. This airplane and this sun would never even be near each other. From somebody 50 miles away,
they wouldn't line up.
This guy probably never flew right through the sun. But based on this camera sees the sun here, and based on where this camera is seeing the sun, the airplane just flew right through the apparition of the sun based on this camera's position.
Exactly.
Every camera is going to have a different position of the sun. So someone 50 miles away, they're going to see a different position of the sun. There might be a different airplane on a different path that flies through that sun.
Yeah.
But here,
correct.
This camera sees the sun here, and this airplane flew through this sun. There could be two different airplanes that fly through two different suns because there's two different observers.
You got it. And this airplane right here is like 3-4 miles away from me.
Exactly.
So, and that shows how the sun is that close and underneath the clouds that are above.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a serious problem where our concave doesn't work for me, because that puts the light source 59 miles above me, and I don't see it going through the clouds. I don't see the tops of the clouds being illuminated in any way.
Okay.
This is
I understand why. I understand why is because in the graphic where I showed you the video, the moving graphic where I showed you the sun going around. What's not illustrated in that graphic is that there's concentric layers of glass around that celestial sphere, and that the outermost spherical concentric glass layer is what is the firmament. So the firmament is not the celestial. The celestial sphere is the rotating ball of stars in the middle, and then you've got a concentric glass layer housing the sun and planets, and then you've got another concentric glass layer. That layer, like onion layers, that layer houses the moon, and then you have another glass layer, at least one more, and that's the outermost spherical glass layer that basically is all of the universe inside of it, and we just have 62 miles, a spherical onion layer. Okay, 62 miles of air. That's mankind's area to live. So most of the universe is heaven. Most of this world is heaven on the inside of the concave model. So you have light passing through layers of glass. Excuse me. And so the sun, the position of the sun, it manifests itself on this side of the glass differently for each observer. Even though there's a physical, tangible sun orbiting around in a smaller glass sphere, the physical, tangible sun being given light from the inside of the celestial spheres where the original light source is, and it's being fed to the back of the tangible sun, and the tangible sun is orbiting around that celestial sphere, providing light to the earth. What we see is an apparition of that sun, and since it's coming through layers of glass, it's birefringence. That's why we sometimes see double suns, double moons, double rainbows, is because the actual sun is coming through at least 2 layers of glass, and that's why it would make sense if you've got a light source at center, and you've got an Earth that's curved like this. The people in the north, they get the sun right there in their own sky because they have a direct line of sight to the sun. The people at the equator, same thing. They get the sun in their own sky. People in the south, so everybody gets the sun in their own sky because everybody can see everybody gets an apparition of remember, light's bending too at the same time, so coming through layers. So the sun we see is
so there's 3 different layers of glass and everything's bending every which way.
At least.
I really, brother, I'm going to pray for you because I think you might be under some heavy mind control.
The heavens,
I think someone's really done a number on you, brother. Those images and the flashy lights.
There's actually scriptures supporting that. It says God is the innermost. So, I mean,
and I'm going to pray for you. That's, we see things flat.
And I'd like to.
So how do you explain those verses that says God is the innermost? Or if Jesus went to the heart of the earth,
because the only thing that's real in this reality is your spirit, which is in.
If Jesus went to the heart of the earth, well, he couldn't have gone in the dirt. The heart of the earth would have to be the center of the earth, which is above our head, which is heaven.
It's down. The pit is down. Actually, what is it? 40-year fall, Jason.
Jesus didn't go to hell.
Yeah, he did. That's what the scriptures say.
Yeah, he did. But see, we take things.
Well, why do you think the scriptures say Jesus went to hell?
He went there to free Adam and his descendants. That was the promise that he made in the Cave of Treasures.
3 days in hell.
Yes. It's all fulfilled. But we just wanted to share, I put a link in the chat, Jason. Basically, you want to just show them a little bit more. So if you're going to say that the sun's position is being manifest underneath the clouds,
which chat?
Ours.
We pretty much agree on what's happening with the sun. We're just getting hung up on semantics.
But you're just inventing a theoretical glass sky with everything in it, and we can't verify, measure, detect any of that. That's the only problem.
Well, I disagree. I think there's strong evidence to support a barrier.
No, in the chat on YouTube. But we know that we did the back search with the transliterations again, like we always do, and we try not to take things out of context. We read before and after. You don't have to play the sound, but just zoom ahead to the clouds. This is a pretty good shot that someone else took, right? So this is repeatable. So the clouds are, right there. If it was spinning on a glass dome, if the sun was being projected out of a dodecahedron, the way that you guys have it through the pyramid, You would not be able to see clouds. Are there clouds inside the spherical heaven? Because there should be.
Actually, nebula means cloud. So actually, I mean, if inside the heavens is water, then there's likely clouds and water inside those other concentric layers. So yeah, there probably is. I wonder, we have 3 forms of water. We have gas, liquid, and solid. I wonder if there's maybe a 4th or a 5th form of water inside those heavens we don't know about. Just
maybe. Well,
just stuff I think about. You know what I mean?
But if we don't know about it, it's just wild speculation.
That's way off topic. I was just mentioning that just for what.
But that's what you're kind of. We're not saying there's any of that stuff. We're not saying that there's any glass sky. We think that the word glass was likened or changed from a type of an aberration, or what you keep saying is an aberration, but more of a light.
So what do you make of Job, where it says that the firmament is strong, beaten as strong as a molten looking glass? It's strong.
Well, that's a King James version translation.
No, I mean mutsak, right? Mutsak means firm in Hebrew,
which is from the original word stereoma, and then
I'm not talking about a dome over a flat Earth, so we don't have to. I mean,
it just means vast expanse or the vault of the horizon.
Well, I mean,
that's what firmament means.
What about the phrase vault? The vault of heaven.
So that's the horizon, right? And then the sky above.
No, I don't think so. I think there's an actual tangible. I mean, we can't get into it. Vault, like impenetrable. NASA's no access denied.
But Enoch speaks of. Go ahead.
Like, do you see the lighting in this shot right now and where the sun's going?
I don't know why that should take away. That you cannot debunk this thing. Should go away if you fast forward it.
So
yeah, it goes away. I don't know why.
Okay.
See, it's not going away. It's not spinning up.
See that bluish green arc to the sun? I think that's really cool. The bluish green tint to the perimeter of the sun.
He's just filming this with a P900.
Yep.
I don't know if he's got a solar filter.
Do you see the clouds above it and lit up around it?
Right. That's what I'm saying. You can tell that the sun is causing the sides of that cloud to glow, which indicate that there are clouds behind that sun.
So here's another one in
but
the.
If you slap a filter on that.
See how it's splitting it?
And it makes it look like, oh no, that's debunked. I think the filter actually changes the position of the sun, just like changing your location. Putting a filter on it changes your perspective of the sun. So of course, if you change your perspective of the sun, it's going to change its position. So now it appears like it's. So that's what I'm saying.
See how it's slicing that layer?
There's clouds behind the sun, and the other people are saying, "Oh no, that's debunked. There's not clouds behind the sun."
Yeah,
well, the difference is filtered and unfiltered, and you're actually slightly changing the position of the location, the proximity of the sun. So when you slap a filter on it, now you're changing the sun, so that now the sun is in front of all the clouds or behind it. Do you see what I'm saying?
No,
no.
You're just making up nonsense, brother.
I don't think so.
Yes.
How do you explain anti-crepuscular rays?
What I'm saying is I agree with you. That sun is right there.
Okay.
The apparition of that sun is in the clouds because we can see the clouds glowing.
The filter just makes it crisper. It doesn't change the physical properties of what we observe.
Right. You see how this sun appears to be moving left? You see this cloud, this angular cloud at a 45. You can see that cloud is glowing. That wouldn't glow like that if there wasn't a light source there.
Local light source right there.
Exactly. Right in the midst of the clouds. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you explain anti-crepuscular rays in concave Earth?
You mean anti-solar horizon crepuscular rays? Where
no, the ones where they're
behind you, but still in front of you. You've got rays coming out at you like this that make no sense at all on any model.
When the sun's below the clouds and the rays are showing up, and like when an airplane flies over that area and it's underlit.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Yeah, you can.
When the sun is below the clouds and the rays are shining upwards, and when an airplane flies over it and it's underlit on its belly.
Oh, right. And so, okay, I see what you're saying. So you've got an airplane flying like this underneath the clouds, but you can see the shadow of the airplane on the underside of the clouds.
Yeah, it's underlit,
indicating a light source that underneath the clouds.
Yeah,
you can see some
right.
chemtrails.
I think that's happening.
The shadow above them.
Number one, the sun. Excuse me. Number one, for that camera, the sun is appearing underneath the clouds, but also light is bending up. And so not
It
only
looks
do you
pretty
have
clear, man. I don't think that you can measure it straight line. You can navigate by it. It's not it's not bending or twisting or warping. It's clear.
It's really crisp.
You can make out the constellations in the night sky, little tiny pinprick of dots. There's no warping, there's no sweltering, there's no distortion. It's a clear, flat, beautiful sky. I showed you that video, right, George Smoot?
I'm not sure what you mean by a flat, beautiful sky. What do you mean by flat sky?
Everything is coming in our eyes as straight projections. There's no warping or distorted twists to it. It's all crisp.
The Earth's surface and the firmament barrier are parallel, so that could be why everything looks flat.
But see, you mean equidistant to the center, the same way the scriptures, the ball Earth says.
There's still stellar aberration. There is slight parallax throughout the night sky, but it's not from one day to the next. It's just throughout the night. There's for example, you'll have two fixed stars that appear to like diverge and then converge again, and they're still fixed in their positions. They just appear to diverge and converge again because we're getting an inverted a smeary inverted version of
I gotta call you out on that, brother. That's just nonsense, man. The handiwork of the creator is those beautiful lights up there. They're no smeary. I don't know. I really do believe you might be under some strong mind control. I'm saying this, man. Not out of trying to be better than you. I'm not no better. You sound like a really intelligent guy. You really do.
A firmament that's this high, okay, and we have light coming through. When light comes through concave glass, it's gonna make our field of view. It's gonna invert our vision of the sky. So it's gonna appear like we have like you guys showed, like when I showed you, when you guys were showing me that little city with the circle and the little bubble over the city. That's what I'm saying. It's gonna invert our perception of the sky, so that
you're just inverting what we observe. You don't understand. How do you not understand that? You see the sun going down, and you're telling me it's going up.
Really, we're looking at.
Why would you do that, though? I can't fathom it. We see the sun clearly not losing its size; it's going down, and you're telling us it's going up.
What do you mean?
Well, you look at the horizon. Everyone on Earth can watch the sunset.
The sunset.
Right. Well, what I'm talking about, it's a different perspective. You're talking about from the ground. I'm saying from high altitude balloon footage.
Anywhere on Earth, you can see the same thing. The sun doesn't lose any angular size, and it goes down.
Earth, but when you're not on the Earth, when you're 20 miles up in a balloon, the sun does something. The sun appears to do something different. The sun actually rotates away and up, which is what I was showing you before.
No, everyone on Earth has always witnessed the sun going down.
When you're down on Earth's surface and you have all that moisture and all that distortion, your view of the sky is inverted. So it looks like you're looking at a concave sky, but you're actually looking at a convex sky.
And we see a flat horizon and everything setting on it. We don't see anything bending, warping, twisting.
Yeah, a flat horizon is expected on the inside of a massive sphere.
We're just... It's
I'm looking towards Austin.
What you're showing them here, right? The way that
is losing its light.
The sun goes down. This isn't the best footage of it. Where's one of the good sunsets?
Yeah, it's just that's the tough thing for me, man. The fact that the sun, just that very simple fact, it goes down, but you guys,
St. Martin myself.
Then it's like saying it's going up.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The sun, okay, right there. The sun's not actually in the water.
But it is.
But
it's right there.
We can observe it like that.
Okay, well, if there was a boat out there, would that boat would the boat be able to reach out and touch this flat disc of light?
Again, the sun would be equidistant from that spot on the boat.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That guy would see the sun in a completely different spot.
Same direction, same time, same size.
His sun is. If there was a guy, if there was a boat, you see where that yellow circle is, right around their little cursor. If there was a boat out there in that yellow circle, and you're saying he wouldn't be able to reach out and touch that flat disc of light that's getting wet, falling into the water. His sun would be somewhere else. Okay, so that supports.
It would be the same direction, same size.
We both agree that two different observers see two different positions of the sun.
No, they actually will still have the same.
So he'll be able to reach out the side of his boat And
No.
But you just said you understand how the sun will be then the same distance away from that observer.
right. So he's going to see the sun in a different spot.
Yes.
At the same angle, same size, same.
So the guy out in the boat gets a different sun than the guy.
It'll look just like this, but it'll be that many miles farther that direction.
Which doesn't work on a spherical heavens rotating above us.
Why not? If it's a simulation,
It would the sun would bowl down. It would rise from the top down.
Why wouldn't it work in the concave model is what I'm saying. If you're saying it's a simulation, why wouldn't it work in a concave simulation? Why does it have to be a flat? If it's a simulation, why does it matter?
Just because we observe it being a flat working reality. We're not trying to force anything onto it.
Well, I think you are because you're omitting the measurements. I mean, a flat horizon only doesn't work on the convex model. A flat horizon only works in the flat and concave models. And so what you're omitting is the actual tangible measurement.
Well, you're saying that the sun is doing an upside down smiley face above us, and we're saying that it's doing the diametrically opposite.
What I'm saying is that,
and that's what we can all observe.
We're not seeing the actual sun is rotating.
So that's what the fake flat earthers keep pushing. That because the path doesn't work for our model, that's the apparent sun. When no, that's what everybody can physically measure and observe.
Right. They started saying that because when I started explaining the truth about the sun, I used the term apparent sun. So now they're saying apparent sun just to muddy the waters.
All right. So can you?
That's my personal experience that I can't prove.
So here we have the circular sun right here. It's coming up above the horizon of where the water and the sky meet. Now, would you admit that the sun is interacting with this water right
Actually,
here?
if you pause it right there, pause. Okay, right there. You see, all right, I'll deal with that. That's fine. You see that little sliver of dark? Okay. You can tell that down here, there's a second horizon there. You see the water, you see the apparent, right? Because I use that term apparent, the apparent waterline horizon.
So what do you mean by that? Apparent? Where it actually is?
All right. Can you back up like maybe 2 seconds in that video? And I'll show you what I mean.
So you can see where the reflection's happening.
All right. You see you see right at the bottom of the screen where the light stops and you can see the waves in the water, right? Okay, so that's the apparent waterline horizon. But then where you see this mirage effect, you see with its hourglass, right? Where if this is like an hourglass, think of like the waist, the skinny waist, where it almost looks like there's a second horizon there, where the reflection of the sun off the water meets the actual light of the sun in the sky, and you can draw right where your cursor is, right where your black mouse cursor is. Yeah, right there. Yeah, there's a line right there. And so that indicates a distant, higher horizon, and the sun is illuminating.
Well, it's not true. You didn't watch where it came up from. It came up from right here. Before the sun rose, the sky was much darker. It was sort of like nighttime. And then the sun, as it started coming up, the day got brighter and brighter and brighter. And here we've got, over half the sun's up right there at the horizon. And then when it finally lifts off here, you can actually see the interaction between the sun and the glowing body of water right there. You'll be able to see the waves in it. See that interaction? You see that right there?
Right.
The sun's now separated from the water, but it's still got a little bit of glow.
No one has ever filmed the sun coming up, rising out of the middle of a lake.
That you're watching it right now.
That's an ocean, though, not a lake.
Well,
what? It's an ocean.
You know what I'm saying? Well, from the side, how come we never? You know what I'm saying? Like that's.
You can't, because you would be another observer.
This is why I call it an apparition of the sun.
Well, here's another way to get past your aberration. Let's get some
APP, apparition.
Apparition.
Right.
Where's the full?
By the way, I like the jet fuel hoax videos.
Oh, thanks.
I think you and I disagree with him on other things, but I think you and Enslaved by No Media did a great job with that.
Yeah, you can't put that much fuel on those wings, man. That's too much weight.
That doesn't make any sense at all. No way. And the trucks that refuel the planes don't hold that much fuel either.
So what we want here is clouds down. This is the first time I had the camera and I was using autofocus.
Actually,
But-
I agree with him on almost everything.
Do you see where the clouds are at the horizon here?
Yes.
They're right at the water,
Yeah.
interacting with the sun
Now,
at the water.
And it does appear that there are clouds behind that sun. I
Yeah.
will agree with that, because that's where the camera sees the sun.
What about these clouds that are right there as this is taking place?
What about them? They're in front of the sun,
Mm-hmm. But
and there are clouds behind the sun and above it. Yeah.
and it shows that the sun is coming up right here behind those clouds that are in front.
Right. But what I'm
At
saying
the
is,
horizon.
if there was a boat way out there, they wouldn't see that, like this big, huge,
Yeah, they would.
yellow disc of light, like 10.
Yeah, they'd see the same
Oh.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but they
Different
wouldn't-
clouds above it.
Yeah, but they wouldn't see it like right there, like 10 feet from the boat. They're not. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna
No.
see it way off in the distance.
Same distance that we see it from,
Right.
at the same elevation.
Okay.
But you can see through as it rises through these clouds.
Whatever. I mean, tomato, tomato. I mean, you got to think about it from the rest of the world. Think about it. If they're listening to this conversation, you're calling it a simulation. I'm calling it an apparition.
But you're saying that we're
both,
we have
we
upside
both
down
agree that two
Yeah.
different positions are going to yield two different observer positions are going to yield two different sun positions. So we're
You're-
basically saying the same thing.
But you're still saying that there's a curve, but it's upside down curve.
And it's in behind
Yeah,
glass.
the curve goes up, which is why we can see far. I mean, that's it. Yeah, the
Yeah.
glow maps work, the stars work, southern stars work. God being at the center and creation being at the center. Sound, universal compression works. Tesla, everything Tesla said now works. Everything being created from center outwards. Sound, acoustics, resonance, sonoluminescence. It all makes sense.
So you can see that there's clouds behind the sun here.
Yeah, the cosmic egg. Heaven is the nucleus.
So that would debunk the idea that sun is being projected from a glass spherical Earth on the inside of our reality. Right there, the fact that it's rising at the horizon with clouds behind it is the absolute finishing nail in the coffin.
How do you figure?
Look at it.
You're only getting.
How does this observation not work in the concave model?
Well, the sun is literally down at the water there. You can see
with clouds
based on
behind
the.
it.
But in the concave model, that's not the actual sun. That's just where you see it. The actual sun's on the other side of the glass, so this still works.
But you can't prove that. That's just absolute nonsense.
It's not.
If we were in a case of law, I would say objection, Your Honor. That's absolute speculation. He would say, he'd rule in my favor. I guarantee it.
Well, if I can screen share, I can show you about over 20 bullet points that show strong evidence for a barrier in the sky.
See, after these rises, you can see where the clouds are above.
I mean, that's what operates.
So the barrier, again, how would we be able to see the night stars through the lit side of the Earth if there was a barrier in the sky?
Yeah, it's a
What are
good
you
one.
talking about?
Well, how is there a barrier? Like, you're saying there's an inverted sphere.
How is there not a barrier? We have pressure. There has to be a barrier.
There's no barrier from my lake water to my shoreline here. I don't have an ice wall. I don't have a dome. The water just stops.
I'm saying at 100 kilometers, 62 miles, there's a barrier. There's a ceiling. There's no. Nimrod was going to go through.
See, there, you just debunked yourself.
Not really.
Where was he going to drill through? Come on.
Huh? I said
Well,
Nimrod.
Nimrod was, what was he doing?
The whole reason why Nimrod was, according to the scriptures,
Mhm.
the whole reason why Nimrod was stopped and he confounded their speech and divided them up at the Tower of Babel story was because, in scripture says this, it says everything they imagined to do would have been possible for them.
Yeah, that means
So
there's
there
no firmament. He was climbing up to heaven to shoot a bow and arrow at the creator and kill him. There was no jackhammers or fishbowl nukes, or they were building a tower to heaven. There was no barrier. You're absolutely just debunked yourself. That was again.
I disagree. There's strong evidence of a hard barrier in the sky.
They weren't bringing jackhammers up with them.
Okay, well,
it defeats the whole purpose. It's again like someone saying that you can see all the kingdoms from one place on Earth, but yeah, we live on a globe. How do you explain seeing all of the kingdoms of the Earth from the inside of a concave? Again, it's impossible.
Because if you're in the middle, you can see everything.
No,
That's
you
why
can't.
God-
You can't
that's
see
why
around
God-
the spherical center of heaven.
God's in the center, so he can see everything all around him. Makes perfect
Okay,
sense.
brother. I'm just telling you, man. There's some
Aside from
serious
the ink and
holes.
paper, well, like I said, if I could screen share, I could show you
You-
about
let
20
him,
bullet
Jay.
points that show strong
you-
evidence for the barrier. At the
It
convent.
does not scriptural though. I just showed you Tower of Babel and seeing the entire kingdoms of the earth from one spot completely debunks concave theory.
Well, you know,
I
I think
disagree.
we've
I
already
do- I-
gone.
You can disagree with it. The truth doesn't need you to agree. It doesn't need
Well,
a popular
I have
vote.
a
It needs
Cellar
nothing.
of Evidence. I have a Cellar of Scripture playlist, so that I most of all the flat Earth Bible verses all have to do with stationary. I mean, almost all those verses work in concave.
Yeah, it
But-
does.
but there's
Stationary,
verses
yes.
that-
Fixed, immovable.
There's biblical verses that only work with the stationary concave model that don't work.
And when Joshua stopped the sun, did he stop the celestial sphere? No.
No, there's a tangible physical sun orbiting the celestial sphere. And
Nonsense again. You.
if there's not a tangible sun and moon, then what was stopped in Joshua chapter?
The sun.
This right here.
Right,
This
because
thing
there
right
is
here.
right because there is a sun. There is a tangible physical sun, and it's inside the firmament, and we are outside of it. That's scriptural.
No, it's materialism. This tangible physical.
Period.
sun.
It's scriptural, and you can't argue it.
What?
I
You
can
can't
prove
just-
to you that you're misunderstanding it by showing you.
That's what it. I mean, maybe, but that's because I'm speaking English and I have to read English Bible. But in the English Bible, that's what I just said is totally accurate.
Well, we've already gone 2.5 hours, and somehow we thought we could do this in an hour.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to cover, and you know,
I know I'm getting too aggressive, but if they're climbing
it's cool,
it,
man. It's cool. Hey, we're the people that are, you know, if there's going to be a judgment and a grading process, it's certainly going to be the people like us that are going to be judged righteously. It's not going to be the people that don't care. So,
we
you know,
agree on that wholeheartedly.
Whoever's on the right side of this argument, we're the people that care. We're the people fighting for the truth. So, you know, I feel totally comfortable with where we're at, you know. So it's cool.
Sounds good.
Me too, brother. Totally.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for being harsh, man. I just
No, it's all good, man. I mean, we're all adamant about staying on this true course, and we don't want to be deceived. We're all tired of being deceived, so I get it. It's all good.
we could do a part 2 again, and maybe we'll get into more of your bullet points because there's so much. Like you said, you need like 40 hours, right?
Yeah, well, I've got a Cellar of Evidence. The evidence playlist is over 60 hours, so I've watched that 3 times. I've really kind of like soaked myself with a lot of the model, and so
I'm gonna.
it's a lot. I don't expect people to just like believe it right away. In fact, if you believe the Earth is concave after watching this, you're an idiot. You better like seek it out, like a lot. There's a lot to grasp. You know what I mean? No, it's true. It is simple to understand. Like, okay, we live inside a stationary creation. We live in a stationary terrarium. That would make a creator would do that. Okay, but when you actually like try to prove it out, like when you actually like watch a lot of the concave material for like a whole week, you're gonna realize that it's strong. It's totally understandable to think you live inside the concave Earth. Whether it's right or wrong, there's absolutely no shame in thinking you live inside a stationary creation.
Yeah. So we got this far tonight. The 4 models of Earth, the Jesuit geocentric globe, Freemason New World Order flying snow globe, the Christian simulation, concave materialist Earth, because you're sticking with it's a physical object as opposed to something else. Curvature, and of course your map would have to be the map that we're using if you think that it's just a inside image of the globe.
Just an inside out thing. Yeah, the curvature the curvature is going to be the same, just up, not down.
Yeah, so 8 inches per mile squared is at least 100% short for
if that's the curvature for the convex globe, then it's going to be if that curvature is wrong for the convex globe, then it's going to be wrong for the concave globe. If it's right for the convex globe, it's going to be right for the concave globe. So we're just talking about downwards versus upwards. Direct inversion. Yep.
All 3 of us can scrap the Jesuit geocentric globe and the Freemason New World Order flying snow globe.
Yeah,
so
those 2 on the left are gone.
They're gone.
Yep. See ya.
All right.
But yeah,
anything else, brother?
No, I think that was fun, guys. Like I said, forgive me for being heated. I get too wrapped up, and like you said, we're fighting for the truth on both sides. That's what matters. I can be corrected too, man. You can come back with all next round and show us what you got.
Hey, love's gonna conquer all. So that's you just got to keep that in mind, and that's always going to be the Holy Spirit whispering in your ears. Just stay focused on what's the best way to show love to this person. Each conversation is going to be different. So finding a way to love each person you interact with, that really is the ticket. That's what works for me so far.
That's great, man. So yeah, thanks a lot. I put your channel in the chat, and I'll put it in the description box below and a pinned comment. Everyone, check out the concave map and model. Where can they find you? Or you do podcasts, and would you like give yourself a shout out?
Well, I got the 2 YouTube channels, Flat Pool and Zenith Atlas, and you can find my Facebook and my phone number and my email addresses at my About section in both of those channels.
Do you want to give out your email address right now?
Sure. Well, I've got 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
You can either find it at the About section at the channel, or one is Josh Boliero at rocketmail.com.
You probably have to spell that. Boliero? Are you Italian?
JOSHBOLIEIRO. Yeah.
Boliero.
Actually Portuguese.
Portuguese, eh?
Okay.
Yeah, my father Joe, he's from the Azores Islands off the coast of Portugal.
And I noticed
I've never been there though. I'd love to visit there sometime. I bet you that's a beautiful place.
For sure.
I noticed your other email had a 33 in it.
Yes.
Are you by chance a Freemason?
No, I am not. I had that email. That's my Gmail address. I was always a Patrick Roy fan, even though I'm from New England. So that's what
That's a contradiction. Wow.
Yeah. Hey, he was the best goalie. I mean,
yeah, he was, man.
A Bruins fan, but I still had to give him. I mean, the Bruins didn't have a better goalie. I'm just saying.
He was passionate. That guy.
Before
wow.
I ever got into like conspiracy. I mean, we're talking high school. I've had that email. So I mean,
you ever wonder if the NHL's fixed?
I had that one. So
that
I
one
had
hurts.
no idea of Freemasonry or conspiracy. I was just a kid when I was.
Yeah. Well, we ask a lot of people if they.
That's why, and I can prove that too because I have a high school hockey photo, and my jersey number was 33 because I asked my coach Norm LaFleur, who was the coach of the Somersworth ice hockey team in Somersworth, New Hampshire. He was my hockey coach. I asked him for that number 33 because I was a kid who liked Patrick Roy, and that was.
Yeah, well, we got
so now I'm like, oh great.
Yeah, you know how it is these days. We gotta ask.
33. I'm like, oh, this.
Yeah, we ask everybody, man.
Damn it.
Jesuits, Freemasons.
I don't blame people for asking. Totally get it. I can't blame you. Can't blame you.
Yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed the night. Yeah. Like I said, we have to do this again. I want to hear more because I still don't know everything about it, and
excuse me.
I never rule out any possibility. I argument for one side, but my mind is open. I'm able to hear other areas of his argument.
You were the event skeptic. I mean, it is your nature.
Yeah. I changed to the Limitless though, because it's a better, more positive. You're saying to love everybody, but sometimes I wonder what's true love is if you lift somebody up or if you just, it's a tough word.
Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, knowing where to draw the line on what's tough love and just being mean.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to break the legs of the lemmings if you know that they're going to run off the bridge, right?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes,
it's a new one.
Yeah.
How else would you stop them?
If you know someone's going to buy drugs, is it better to just like cut the wires in his car so he can't drive anywhere? Like,
yeah, my old man actually, I shouldn't call him that. He's not that old. My dad actually, he'll do that. He'll disconnect the starter wire or another wire.
It's the same thing, right?
He's really good at it. My dad. It's funny that you say that. But yeah, man, thanks a lot for coming on. Everybody make sure you check out Josh's channel, Flat Pool, right? And stay tuned for more. There's also, I believe you're friends with Brother Ernest, right? He's going to be speaking at the Flat Earth Expo. Or no, Exit the Matrix.
Exit the Matrix.
Yeah, he lived up, when I lived in New Hampshire, he was about 45 minutes from me. So I saw him all the time, yeah.
Ernest seems like a pretty down-to-earth guy. So
he's one of the most interesting people in the world. I'll give you that. But he's very like, he's blunt and straightforward. Like he he's still thoughtful and considerate. He's not rude, but he's, he can speak his mind too.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, thanks a lot. Jason, where did they hear this?
Only Beyond Flat Earth.